Hey, welcome to Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 12 of 9-1 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Katie, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Grace.
Hey.
And EJ.
Hey everyone.
Today we will be talking about Season 2, Episode 1 of Lone Star, titled Back in the Saddle. Just remember, as always, we won't be recapping the episodes. We will more be just talking about our thoughts and what stood out to us. So let's get to talking.
Exciting, we're actually already in Season 2.
I know.
It feels like we spent forever waiting for this.
Yeah.
And now it's here and it's like, I'm sorry, what's happening?
Yeah, I know. It was so exciting watching on Monday, not just for the podcast, but also for the podcast, because I'm like, oh yay, we get to actually talk about this in real time. And it's going to be different than when we were talking about it in the past, because we're going to be getting everything as everyone's going to be watching. You'll get our thoughts literally basically in real time and stuff. We won't be talking about old things, and we get to talk about the next week's promos, which will be exciting since we won't know what's happening.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So let's be honest, I have not paid much attention to the promos lately because I feel like I already kind of know what's happening in the episode, so I haven't paid attention to next week.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But no, I like this because as fan accounts or just general fans, we not only get to watch the show, but we also get to be immersed in the fandom side of it. But also in a podcast, we can combine the best of both worlds.
Yes.
And just take you all along for a ride with us.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
All right, so the military museum.
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, they had to get the tank from somewhere, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it was last week, EJ, you pretty much called what was happening.
Oh yeah.
You got it pretty much exactly on point.
I did not expect that. I mean, I was like, okay, it could be just about anything, but I'm like, with what they were doing, I'm like, I have a funny feeling, because you hear it all the time. People are mad and distraught because they lost a family member. Yeah. So yeah, I was just like, wow.
So let's be honest, when the episode opened and we see the kid there, at first I had a wild thought of, what if the kid somehow gets in and starts the tank?
Yeah, that was the other one.
But I'm pretty sure if that kid, he didn't look more than 8 at most. I'm pretty sure if that kid had started, it would have crashed.
Yeah.
So.
Or it would, yeah. And it, when the little kid, sees the guy getting in it, he's like, they have rides? Because you could tell he was not interested in being there. And I'm like, I gotta feel you, kid, because I'm not a huge fan of history stuff. But I do enjoy history sometimes. So
I enjoy history, but honestly, I feel like a walkthrough tour would be so much more boring than just exploring at your own pace.
Yeah.
So I feel that kid, and for a moment, I'm I can envision myself just going, they have rides.
Yeah, I'm not into history at all. The only thing I would say close to history that I've done museum wise was the 9/11 museum, and that's actually interesting and something that I liked doing or going to and seeing in person, just because it's something that I wasn't that old when it happened. I was only 5 or 6, but it's something I lived through, so it's something I knew a lot about. So it's not, but this I would not.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone to one museum in my life, and that was actually the Bible Museum in DC. And that was great, but there are others I would love to see, again, 9/11 museum or spy museum, anything having to do with world wars. Just okay, because I love history, but as I said, walkthroughs, no thank you. Let me do things on my own. I'm an independent woman.
Yeah, so that was interesting. But yeah, I love that little kid though, because that would so be me. They have rides.
Yeah.
That not only would be me as a kid. That would not only be me as a kid, that would probably be me right now. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, honestly.
They have rides.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And then me being an adult, I'd start panicking. But
especially when it drives out and starts hitting things.
And then I'd be like, oh.
I don't think that was supposed to happen.
No, don't think that's what's up. That I think then like second part would be, oh, they have a show.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah, a demonstration.
Demonstration. But like, no, that's like the main road. I don't think that's what's supposed to be happening. But oh my gosh, I love how everyone's just kind of standing there like dumbfounded as it's going. Because like, what else do? You can't exactly run out and stop a tank,
Right?
Yeah.
with just their faces.
They're just like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and then like the tank. So like Katie, you'd mentioned like he drives over the car, and then I saw it like it ran over a fire hydrant, and it just didn't run over it. It like broke it, and like water starts going up. So they got this like fountain of water shooting up.
Oh yeah,
as it's driving away.
Yeah, the destruction. Oh my god! Like I like at one point, like after I think this was after it had crashed over where the police were barricading, and he just went around, and there were people running away. It like almost ran over a bike rack. I was like, holy! Oh my god!
Yeah.
But like, actually, let's look at where it turned away from the police, though. Like, that to me, he was very intent on the target, which we later find out to be the VA hospital.
Yeah.
But he could have easily just run over the cops, let's be honest here. But he went deliberately out of his way to avoid hurting the officers. And so I'm like, well, we don't know whether anyone was hurt during any of this. Like, someone could have been in the car he crushed, though I don't think that was the case. Like, I don't think we heard anything about that, but it's certainly possible somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
It seemed like he deliberately went out of his way to do that. So I gotta wonder, once he arrived at the VA, what was he going to do? Run it over? I mean,
I don't think he had a plan. I think he's obviously going through major grief, and he obviously is just enraged, and understandably so to a point. But I don't think he had a end goal of what he was going to do. I think he was just so enraged that he was like, okay, well, this is how I'm going to take it out. And he didn't really have a plan at all. He was just, this is what he was doing, I guess. This was his reaction.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, half of me is, he didn't seem to be showing any qualms about, like, going after the hospital. So, like, whatever he might have done eventually. But also half of me is going, would he really have wanted to cause harm to other military members? Like, was that overall something that, I don't know, grief makes people do weird things.
Yeah.
And so does anger. And the two of those mixed together is a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Right, and everybody experiences grief differently, and there are, they say there's 7 stages. It's really not. There's processes to grief, and everybody hits them differently. Like there's anger.
Anger is the stage.
Yeah.
Like denial, anger, I don't know the order.
Sadness, depression. I mean, so there's like multiple levels or stages of it, and everybody hits it differently. So he was in a moment,
and not always
like,
in the
grief.
same order.
Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like he might have hit grief or anger and sadness all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that kind of pulled up some wanting. I don't know, but I'd imagine he was probably just wanting to, like, avenge his daughters, by, attacking them. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean,
not really sure what his, like you said, like, or what you were asking. Like, I don't know what his plan was after he, like, ran the tank into the building. I mean, because I don't imagine the tank is full of ammunition.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he could just fire a shot and so
it was like it sounded very much like it wasn't a well-known incident beyond family, and obviously like the VA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there was the, like, drawing attention to it. Like, he wanted his daughter's story to be heard. And let's be honest, it's probably very naive of me, but it didn't even occur to me that the VA could turn away people, or would turn away people.
I don't think it was a turn away. I think it was she was seeing a counselor or something there, and they felt like she didn't need the help that they needed, or they didn't address it or see the problems that were coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can only treat what's in front of them, and if the person's not sharing all the information or how exactly they're feeling, they can't necessarily treat something invisible. So I imagine it was more of the counselor didn't pursue things because she didn't think they needed to. They did. So and that's unfortunately that's how we lose so many military service people, because of the unknowns that they come back with.
Yeah.
And also, they, in the field and everything, they very much have to coop things up inside. And so, that's not something that's going to be easy to shake.
Yeah.
Right.
Once you come back into civilian life.
Yeah.
So many of them don't learn how to open up.
Yeah.
Many of them have basically toxic gender roles shoved on them, despite what their gender may actually be, like force, power.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that is why we have sadly lost so many veterans and or active service members.
Yeah.
And it's a epidemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. But I don't know, I've always supported the military. My dad's a veteran. He's a Vietnam veteran. And, I have family members that served, and I have friends that have served or are serving. And all of them have stories. And I just am grateful to have them in my life, but also know that they've had a rough road.
Yeah, for sure. My military family members have pretty much gone through hell. There's only like 1 out of 4 I know that actually had an easy time transitioning. I don't know easy time, but like in the end acclimated better to civilian life. Yeah. There's only 1 of them. Like 1 of 4.
Yeah, and I mean, I was thinking back. I just realized, like, I think in one of the episodes, I want to say it was our wish list for season 2. I briefly had mentioned one of the things I wanted to see was because I knew there was a lot of military in Texas, and to have like something, and like, this is not exactly what I meant, but it happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Plot twist: the producers are secretly listening to our podcast.
I wish.
Hey, you never know. Never know.
I doubt
one will dream.
Like, wouldn't that be great?
Sense link.
And then to go on with that, I think last week we had shared about we thought it was a World War II tank. It turned out the tank was from the Persian Gulf War.
Yeah.
So we were a little off on that, but I still think that, like, we're like, oh, we recognize these kind of things, and hey, this is
Yeah.
So
to me, a tank is a tank is a tank is a tank.
Yeah.
I'm not very familiar with the model.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
So it was a very nice tank, and it would have been much nicer if it just stayed put. But
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the news reporter's comment. He's like, well, police should have no problem finding him. He's left a trail of destruction for more than a mile.
Like the sass thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, the sarcasm there, but I was like, it's so true. Like, it's easy to fight because there's like crunched cars and freaked out people.
Yeah.
Also, those things are loud and huge. So even if he wasn't destroying anything, somebody was going to notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how, like, because we have this brief scene, and like Grace, she's in dispatch trying to figure out, like, there's, trying to learn what she can about him, passing on information to APD.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the tank kind of had a police escort there a little bit. Like, the cops were kind of in front, like, like telling people to get out of the way because you're in danger.
Yeah.
They can't really stop him without getting killed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so the best they can do, and the best they can do is simply just try and get people, out of the way.
Yeah. The best part of the scene was Carlos. I was watching and I was like, the second I saw him, I was like, oh, thank you. Yes. And like just everything like with him, like they basically surround or try to make a perimeter to surround the guy so that way he can't go. And Carlos is just like at least 2 deep. Hopefully stop him. And the female cop that was there was like, we're talking about a 57-ton tank. You really think he'll stop for this? And Carlos is just like, no, but hopefully his treads will get stuck when he tries to go over. And she's like, and if he decides to just shoot at us with the cannon? And Carlos is like, duck. That was the best line.
He was like, the sass boy.
I was like, that's the first thing I wrote down. Sass. I love it.
Sass. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, I loved seeing a puppy here.
Yes.
Like,
yes. And
the authority he holds in his job, and also just like, love the screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when the tank does end up going around this layer of cop cars, or these layers of cop cars,
destroying a university sign.
Yeah, he kind of
much better than the cops.
He looks at the other cops and he goes, somebody needs to come up with a new plan.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
I think he was even saying it into his radio.
Yeah, no, that's what it was.
And he was just like, well, that.
And then I'm like,
that didn't work.
Okay, somehow, because I remember in 911 when that first, I think it was the first episode of season 3, when like the kid's driving down the highway at super high speeds and he can't stop the car. So like Athena comes up with the fire truck.
All right.
So I was like, oh, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
And then, you know, so obviously then intro the 126 driving down the highway or the road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Owen's talking to the sergeant. He goes, so what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
He's like, well, I don't know where to send you guys, but just, you know, be in touch.
Yeah.
Which then, you know, Paul starts his thing.
Paul does his thing. I was like, Paul does his thing. And
Paul's me in that moment, though, just being the researcher.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's figure out what's happening here. Okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, and the sergeant's relaying a lot of that information over to him, like, because they know who it is. Like, apparently the guy that was driving the tank was a volunteer at the museum. So that's how he knew how to get access to the tank. And then he was a lieutenant and also had been a tank gunner during the Gulf War. So he knew how to drive that type of tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thought right now is that, like, that tank, like, they said the radio and it didn't work. But also my thought is, I'm thinking about this right now, is it couldn't have been, like, a working tank, because I think that's kind of a liability for the museum. I think it would have to be just for show. Like, yes, it'll drive and stuff like that.
Right.
But, like, otherwise, I think that would be such a liability for them to have it, like, be able to shoot.
I mean, if it wasn't loaded, but I don't know. That's good point.
Yeah, I feel like that, now thinking about it, I'm like, that seems a little like they could get sued, like, so quickly for that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, when Paul did his thing, I was just like, yep, here we go. And this is the first time in this episode that it happens. And, like, at first I was just thinking, well, when I'm first watching the episode for the first time, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is this guy doing? He's causing a lot of destruction. And then Paul's just like, okay, I know what... He looks at an article and he's like, okay, I know where this guy is going. He's going to the VA because...
Yeah, he's on his tablet. Yeah. On the tablet.
And it says, like, veteran basically commits suicide. I forget. It didn't say that for word for word.
I didn't see the... It didn't show long enough to be able to...
Yeah. I paused it, like, the next day. It said, like, veteran takes her own life for being denied care or something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so when Owen relays that, like, go to the VA, I remember, like, being with Owen and the sergeant, which is, I think we'd mentioned, like, it's really cool to have more cops presence on the show.
I needed.
I
wanted that so bad.
And the sergeant asks Owen, "Are you sure?" And, like, just as he asks, like, you can hear the sound, and you look down the road, like, straight down the road, and here comes the tank. And Owen's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure."
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, yeah. When they all, like, start rushing out of the building. First, Owen comes out, and it's kind of just him standing there, and then everyone else slowly starts coming out. That was such a powerful moment.
Yeah,
in that show. Like, I'm pretty sure in that moment I got chills just from, like, because it's so beautifully done, and it was just, like, so powerful, and just to see, like, everyone stand there. Yes, they don't know this guy, but, like, it, like, shows that, like, they may not know you, but they will stand by you in whatever situation just to protect you or just to be there for you.
Well, and it was I mean, it's so powerful, and, you know, we're kind of in that spot where they're not really sure what exactly this guy's, like, plan is, like we talked about. So, and then I really love what Owen did there.
Yeah.
Like, he realized, he's like, has anybody tried to talk to this guy? And that, you know, we find out the radio doesn't work, and so somehow Gwen is able to, or Grace is able to get a hold of the guy's wife, and so she calls him on her phone, and he answers, and, you know, he's telling her, you know, they need to pay and all this stuff, and then they patch Owen in, and we get this amazing speech from Owen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
About 9/11.
Yeah.
And it's so accurate, and it's so sad
so
that it
true.
is.
Yeah. And, like, because they can't film an actual, like, Owen Begins or, like, an actual episode at the towers or at Ground Zero or anywhere where it would resemble his original storyline, this was, like, the perfect way to fit it in this season until they're able to get that scene and do it to the perfection.
Yeah. Like, the power of that. Like, how everyone swore they wouldn't forget it. Like, the world swore or they wouldn't forget that day. But they may not have forgotten the day, but they forgot the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for those people who either lived it or who are in the jobs that were affected by it. And it's so upsetting. But, like, you know, we had the storyline last season of Owen's cancer, and that came from being at 9/11. And there's so many first responders and people who helped clear Ground Zero that to this day are struggling with health, cancer, and all sorts of other things. From being at Ground Zero.
Yeah. And I can't even, and I can't even think about the bystanders that, like, helped out, because that's, I know one of my teachers from high school said that, like, her husband was there during it, and I don't know, like, I think he might have worked construction or something like that, and he was, like, helping clean up after it, so you can't even think about how many other people were affected in similar ways.
Those examples, like, obviously the first responders, many of them were lost, but, and so many of them were, had to go through this traumatic experience, but this is also, that was their job.
Yeah.
Their job was to run towards the danger.
Yeah.
The bystanders, they had no obligation to go in.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had no obligation to help. It was in their best interest to go very far away. But those who didn't, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Kind of sad and mind-boggling.
And I can't remember exactly how it was said, but I've heard it in certain shows, and I believe we even got a little bit of it during the end of season 3 of regular 911 when Buck met that old firefighter. And it's basically that many firefighters have the thought that if you don't die on the job, you're going to die from it, because firefighters on a daily basis can be faced with chemicals and all sorts of stuff that could end their life, or in the future end their life. Just kind of the reality, and it was kind of I don't know, I got like shivers when we were watching it, and then just seeing Owen standing there trying to talk to this guy, and then slowly the crew start coming out and lining up behind him, and we see TK and Carlos standing next to him. And I really love the moment when TK came up and put his patted his dad's shoulder.
When they realized what Owen was doing, and they all just banded together to just stay there, and it was a moment of, if you take him down, you're taking the rest of us down.
Right, and I love what Owen said there. He said, the men and women standing with me aren't moving. How would Sophia feel about you taking down all these heroes? Heroes just like her.
Yeah.
How's that going to honor her memory? Do not make your daughter's life a footnote to something stupid you do here today in her name.
Yeah.
And it is so on point.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly that would be happening. It would be so-and-so gun drives a tank into VA hospital in honor or to revenge a daughter's death or suicide, and that would have been exactly what it was.
It would smear her name.
Yeah. And
already just with what had happened, him taking the tank in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a smear to her name, because that, would you prefer to have no notoriety?
Yeah.
Or bad notoriety?
Yeah.
And she would get good and bad. Right. Recognized as a veteran who suffered, but she would always be associated with her father and what he did. Yeah. Which, we understand why it happened, was still not okay.
Right. Yeah.
And then we get that moment, and we've seen it in the promos, and it's funny in the promos, but I think the humor of it actually leaves in the actual scene of where the cannon comes straight up to his face.
Oh, yeah.
Someone said Owen gets booped, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's funny. He did get booped.
Oh, yeah. When I was watching the first time, I was like, okay, I already knew it was going to come up close to his face. But I didn't expect, the way it looked, because, it was so close to his face to the point where he flinched a little bit and moved himself back. But it was just oh my God, that was so close. He could have got his face bashed in.
Right.
I mean, let's look at this. The tank, as the female officer said, is 57 tons of just pure metal. And so you have to think how it's amazing, even with the will to stop, that the tank was able to stop as fast as it did. Because yes, it is engineered for that. But if you think of anything like trains large vehicles, stuff, it takes time. You need the break room.
Yeah.
And he was getting super close.
Yeah.
So it's like, there was a big chance that even if he had meant to stop, he wouldn't have been able to in time.
Right.
Yeah. And it's an old tank. You don't know how well it runs.
Right.
I mean, the brakes could have failed him.
Exactly.
So obviously they were not going to kill off the entire crew, but like, if you're just thinking realistically,
Yeah.
like, that could have turned out so much worse.
Yeah, and even in that moment, like, behind the 126 and Carlos and some of the cops that were there, you could see other people standing with their army uniforms on. Like, people that had been in the, in the waiting room, just waiting to get seen. Like, guys with their jackets on, you could see the camouflage. And
the medical people.
And they're all standing
like, you could
there.
see some doctor's coats in there. Which was why I'd always thought that it was a clinic. Or some sort of hospital, which technically it was.
Right.
Because in the promos I had seen, like, the doctors and the nurse scrubs and stuff like that. No, it's the VA hospital.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just...
All right. So when Owen's talking about the heroes, he's not just talking about the firefighters and the cops. He's talking about the doctors and the nurses and all the veterans that were standing up behind him.
Yeah.
And all the veterans that they'd had to evacuate.
Yeah.
That could have been hurt if he, they hadn't figured out where he was going.
Yeah.
Right. And then, right as the tank comes up to Owen and stops and he does that flinch, the next clip you see is of TK and Carlos. And you can see, because they're all wearing masks and gloves because we're in COVID times. And so you can kind of see TK's eyes just kind of like frozen, like, and he's relieved because his dad could have just gotten run over by a tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how they're standing next to each other and
like, oh!
Yeah. And then like Grace is obviously on the other line. She has no idea what's happening.
Right.
She can only do so much and know so
Right.
much. And she's just like Captain Strand, he's like still standing.
Yeah. Still standing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like the team's obviously like really excited, so like they try to like hug and he's like social distance and I'm just like, oh my god.
But I'm like, you know what? It's kind of funny because like social distance.
Yeah.
So far, no one has been 6 feet apart. Let's be honest. They had the mask, but it's like,
Yeah. I mean, they had to throw that in there to break it out, the icebreaker,
yeah.
It was funny. I really liked it. It was funny.
No, I thought it was funny, but like my logistical mind is just like, well, you have been 6 feet apart this entire time.
Right.
But I guess 6 feet apart and like physical contact.
Yeah.
2 different kinds of social distancing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But still, like the fist bumps, it was.
Fist bump all around. Yes. I mean, and we talked about earlier that, we kind of called it with the whole tank and losing a family member. I was like, good job, Lone Star. I did not expect a few of those things, but I saw some of it coming. I mean, showing a clip of a tank running somewhere just makes me kind of figure it's going to have to be something like this. But.
Yeah.
Yeah. This incident, being right at the front of everything. Season 1, I think we can all agree, lacked emergencies.
Yeah.
It was so focused on backstory, we didn't get a lot of actual, emergencies. And so, this starting off, I'm like, okay, this is going to be good. And it started off, to me, was a promising episode.
I was a little hesitant when it first started because, I was just like, okay, what are they doing here? And it gave me, 9-1 vibes. Not that that's a bad thing, but, I was just like, okay, I really hope this isn't, I don't know, a really boring scene that they're gonna throw in here. I was like, okay. But this is probably, emergency-wise, I think almost, if not the best, almost the best one to start the season. I'm not gonna say so far, but kind of so far.
I mean, we'll have to see what comes up in the season, but I'll be interested to see, when the season finale rolls around, and we, come back after that, what we think, the lineup of emergencies was. What
Oh,
ranked.
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do that.
Guys, we have a lot to choose from. And I think in this episode alone, we had,
There's quite a few.
half the emergencies that we had last season. Not quite, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think
Looking forward.
I was thinking about this. I'm like, so we had emergencies last season, but it all seemed to be tailored around the characters themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas these were actually like on call, emergencies, not necessarily. I don't know what to say. Like focused on like one specific. Because we had like Judd's dad getting hurt and all his falls. We had the cancer. We had. TK getting shot.
Yeah. I mean, we've had...
so
it was more focused around the people last season.
The team.
Yeah. Which was great because that's where we needed to start off with, especially with the spin-off series.
Yeah.
But, like, second season, they definitely delivered on, like, starting off strong.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And then our newest character appeared.
Tommy Vega. Oh my god, I love her. She is love her.
Yeah. So like right off the not right off the bat in the scene, but like pretty early on in the scene, her husband says back in the saddle. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's where the episode came from, which we had like several different theories that we talked about at the end of our last episode of what the title could mean, because there were like so many meanings for like, wow, could mean this. No.
Though I think if I remember the episode correctly, we actually had a couple references, like a couple
we did.
literal back in the saddle.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we
phrases.
Did.
So I was looking at it, I'm like, yes, but one of my biggest theories pertaining to the title did come from Tommy Vega. So like hearing that, I'm like,
yeah, we got that.
We got it.
Yeah.
We got it.
So, like, basically, like, we kind of, like, get immersed into her home life before we meet her in the station. And she has twin girls, which we already knew, and stuff. She hasn't been on the job in, I think, a decade. I think that's what they said.
Well, they later said 2013, which if they're doing 2020, so her girls would have been about 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
It's
close to
basically.
a decade, I think, if they rounded up a little bit.
I think they phrased it as better part of a decade, so the majority of a decade.
Yeah. I liked her husband. Like, so far, I like him.
Yeah, I liked this. Like, looking back, I kind of felt like a lot of her scenes with her husband were a little too long for my liking. I just felt like they were kind of like, it was just felt like, okay, I get the point. And I think it might have just been because it was her first episode. It'll definitely be interesting to see with the next episode, like, how the whole episode plays out compared to this one. But, like, those scenes did seem like a little too long for me, at least. It was just like, okay, I get the point. Like, you're trying to show us this, but like, I've seen enough. Like, it felt like it dragged on.
Yeah, well, they were condensing an entire season worth of introduction to like a 5-minute scene, so it was a lot, kind of. But and we knew some of it going into it. Like, we knew her husband lost his business, and even. So in that scene, we have the same thing. Like, he's joking about, like, all the food they have in the freezer in their garage because,
and all the stir sticks.
And all the stir sticks. And, like, so he made, like, steak and eggs for breakfast. And, so he's got a bunch of steak. And,
I don't get that.
Yeah.
I wrote that.
It's a cowboy breakfast.
Yeah, I know. Like, places have that where I live. But, like, I'm like, I've never ordered that, nor do I think I ever will. Like, I'm like, no.
To me, that you're taking two separate things from two different meals and combining them. Yeah. Well, I think it would be good. It's a little odd sounding.
Right. It's
like, I have nothing at steak or
eggs. It's like
eggs.
chicken and eggs.
I'm sure they'd
like,
be
that's weird to me too.
Chicken. That does not sound good.
No, like, it'll be like fried chicken and eggs, and I'm like, I don't really get that either. But yeah, whatever. To each their own.
Whatever.
And then
also, I love the girls. Mama is
I love that. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, they know who's in charge.
Yes.
Right?
And then the next one, everyone hated, but it was my favorite. Okay. Like, I just loved it. Like, everyone was like, Tim is annoying. And I'm like, I thought it was funny. Like, I was like dying. I was like,
I thought it was
it was so funny.
Like, I could see why people thought it was annoying, because maybe he was a little bit, but also at the same point, I thought it was funny, kind of annoying.
It's like...
And that opened up clearly, like, a lot of funny dialogue.
Yeah.
Good explanation for what happened with Michelle. And I'm just like, no, I enjoyed it. And honestly, I don't think any other character could have carried it as well as
it's
Tim
part
did.
of his sense of humor for me. So if you didn't think it was funny, you thought it was more annoying, then you gotta, like, reevaluate his character, because that's literally his character. His character is, like, just kind of says what he thinks, which is me, so that's probably why I think it's so funny. But he was just like,
I mean, and like,
he has every right to be mad.
Exactly. I mean, I would be in the same position if I was in a job for a very long time with somebody and they just like up and quit, and then they threw back in not just somebody that had been transferred, somebody who had been off the job for so many years. I'd be a little concerned about the person they're bringing in to be my boss.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, I think I would be more upset if, like, the person quit to, like, become an office worker or something. Or, like, if it was for a different reason.
Right.
I think Michelle's reasoning was very solid, very on point with her character. Yeah. And so I'm like, personally, I don't think I'd be upset, but I do know I would be apprehensive because a lot does change in the medical field over 7 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And we know it's September of 2020 in this. So it's been like 7 years. And especially with new protocols for COVID.
Yeah.
So actually you gotta wonder how many recertification tests you need to do, how many, like, new protocol training, things that she needed to do. Well, but I can understand the apprehension. Yeah. I think I'm relieved that they didn't make it something where she walked in on them on. Because a lot of shows and movies do that kind of thing. Like, somebody saying something embarrassing and they have the person walk in. It's
Drama.
Like, no. Yeah. I was so glad they didn't do that.
So I kind of feel like the whole team was downstairs, like when she came in, and like Owen introduced them, and then he's like, "Okay, let me show you to your office," and then they're gone is when they had this discussion. Yeah. It's kind of where I got the vibe.
Yeah.
And I can speak a little on the whole experiences and stuff, because like I'm a licensed home care, which means I've gone through the training, and every year I have to do retraining. So I was advised, even if I don't keep this job, to keep up on the training, because I could always go back into it in the future. So I'd imagine, since she's coming back into this, she may have done that. Because she did talk about when she was with her husband that this had always been kind of a decision that one day she'd go back, but she had hoped the girls would be older.
Yeah.
So, and understandably, like, I think it takes a lot to be able to leave a job you love and be able to raise your kids, and vice versa, to keep the job you love but still try and be a parent.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to get y'all's thoughts on this. The storyline they made for Michelle leaving, it felt very final.
I definitely feel that. This is my opinion on it. See, for me, like, it's very on character for Michelle. Like, obviously, she would want to be doing work that, like, she obviously is very, like, passionate about that. I kind of felt that, like, just the whole season, but also more towards the end of the season. And it's very, like, it's her, but, like, also, I thought that it felt very final because Marjan made a comment saying, like, not everyone can choose a vocation. Like, some people, like, it's just not, you can't necessarily do that, but if it's very, like, special and this and that, and like it just felt very final to me. I'm like, okay, so like how they made this seem like this is like what she was destined to do. So like how would they even potentially bring Liv back in the future permanently?
I have a feeling she is coming back
permanently.
Like it would feel so odd if she was brought back, especially since I do think Tommy has more popularity than Michelle. Like, I know I really like Michelle, but I like Tommy far more already.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I'll be interested to see what they do, but it felt so final. I'm like, I really don't think she's coming back. Or if she's coming back, she is not coming back as paramedic captain.
If she comes back, I have a feeling it'll be like what they did with Abby, when she came back, it was for an episode a couple seasons later in season 3. I have a feeling if she came back, it would just be for an appearance, which makes me sad because I didn't love her character on my first watch through when it was actually airing. But as I rewatched it more towards the end of the season, I liked her more. I liked her relationship with Carlos. That's like what kind of held me together in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
But like in the first, I would say like 5-6ish episodes, her whole sister storyline drove me nuts. I couldn't stand it. Like she was just like problematic, and I understand,
especially since I didn't really like the sister, like just the various vibes from the situation and everything. And I hope nobody takes that as me saying anything against her illness, because this is not anything about that.
Yeah.
It's just the sister in general. And any, like, flashbacks we got of her or anything, I didn't like her. Yeah. And so the whole storyline revolving around her, it was off-putting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, so I have a couple of thoughts on that. So I think, for me, like, the entire season 1 was focused on Michelle's desire to find her sister. So everything, every time we saw her, she was dealing with something related to her sister. So we really didn't get a lot of Michelle herself, unless she was on, like, a paramedic call.
Yes.
So yeah, from what we saw, she was a great paramedic, but I felt like she definitely was distracted by her sister's disappearance, which rightfully so. I mean, she was looking for her sister. And then when she does find her sister, you know, and she learns kind of what's been going on, I can kind of see, you know, and we know she'd been volunteering for that Sacred Hearts group for a while. So she was already volunteering for like helping the homeless. So this was kind of her sister and wanting maybe to get her sister help. This was a way for her to do it. And as a finality, I think you guys are right. I feel like she probably won't come back. Definitely won't come back as a paramedic captain, I don't think. But I do think like she'll come back maybe for something like if Carlos and TK had to, you know, get engaged or married, or there's another big event in the 126 life she may come back for.
And they may even have calls to the homeless camp, and they might show her. But also considering lives in London, unless she was here for another project, like in LA for another project, I don't think she's going to come over just to film an episode. Like maybe, but,
well, I mean, I'm sure besides COVID, I'm imagining people, even though they live in a certain city, they probably travel a lot for work, whether it's for filming an episode of a show or a movie. So she may come back and they get it on the schedule and she's in town and she can film. Great.
Yeah.
So, you know, it'll be seen. But I feel like that just the introduction to Tommy, I feel like she's going to be more of the part, which is fortunately and unfortunately is kind of the MO from 911. I mean, we had Connie Britton was a big draw for the original 911 for a lot of people.
And Liv Tyler is a huge name. Yeah. So like that drew in.
Her and Rob Lowe were like the big ones when they first, which, you know, they were the most well known of all of the cast.
I mean, she was part of what drew me in because I knew that name from Lord of the Rings. Right. But I don't think I've ever even watched anything with Rob. But like I knew that name, so eventually that was part of why I decided to start watching the show.
Yeah.
But then Tommy Veg or Gina Torres. I mix up names. She is also a fairly well-liked actress, and just like Jennifer Love Hewitt, who plays Maddie.
So I love that they have amazing women actresses and characters, because, you know, and that's, again, you know, we've talked about it in the past about the representation of, you know, women in male dominated roles and stuff. So I think it's good to have like, I'm glad they didn't bring back a man to like replace Michelle.
Definitely. And I couldn't really see them doing that anyways. I just don't think it would have been right.
Right. And so while Tim was complaining about her, he said something about 2013 was the year that she'd last worked. And then I love how everybody's kind of like, I remember, you know, 2013
live concert.
Hugs.
And I love,
and then Paul's like, you want a hug, Proby? I want to
Yeah.
hug.
Oh, I was like,
I miss hugs.
And that's so
I was-
me.
I miss hugs, too.
yeah, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, yes, I called this. I told everyone that Mateo was a hugger. I mean, episode 8, episode
Yes.
9. I said it.
I mean, poor TK's shoulder knows he's
Yeah.
a hugger.
Oh, yeah.
Mateo, my
8,
stitches,
9,
dude.
10. Yes.
Yeah. Watch the stitches.
Yeah.
Watch the stitches. Yeah. But no, I love
Yeah.
that, and I'm like that. I feel that has been one thing I've missed
Right.
so much. I've never gone to a
Oh,
nightclub. I've only been to like a couple live concerts in my life, and it's been years. So I'm like, the only thing I can relate to there is hugs.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and to like, and as we're kind of going through, you know, we got TK, and it's like the whole back in the saddle episode. Even though he was there, like he's back on the fire truck. We didn't talk about that when we first saw the 126. TK's on the truck. And the last at the end of season 1, he had just barely decided he was going to come back.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So to see him back on the truck, so he's back in the saddle too, in a way.
Yeah. I mean, it's been 4 months. I kind of
Right.
expected if it was like shortly after season 1, I would maybe be like, okay, maybe he'll still be out for a few weeks. But since it has been confirmed to be 4 months, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense that he's there.
yeah.
And he was eating in the back of the seat, and I loved that so much. That's the
that's
first thing I
me.
noticed.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always notice
Okay,
what
can we
TK's
also
doing.
talk about? Can we talk about how tan he looked in that scene? I mean, he just seemed a lot darker than usual. At first, I was like, "Wait, did you get a tan?"
It looked.
I don't know. In the various stills I've seen, he seems so much darker. I'm like,
He probably
did you
just
get-
came off of an ocean cleanup Friday. I don't know.
Yeah.
probably. Let's be honest. Oh, yeah, but oh my gosh, TK's eating, and then we have Owen showing Tommy around.
Yes.
And I
And
love.
I love his pride
Yeah.
in him.
But did you guys notice that hesitation? He started explaining, and she's like, "Well, I don't know who that is," and he starts explaining, and then he stops.
Yeah.
I was like, "Is that because the last time he tried to like be happy
Brag.
about it, brag about it, Billy was the person he was doing it to,
Probably.
and
Yeah,
it didn't go so
maybe.
well." So I was
Even if that isn't a plan in the show, like it lines up so well
like, "Yeah."
that like, yeah, it's now part of the show
Yeah.
officially.
Like I'm like, oh, which so like I would be a little hesitant to like share after that happened the first time, but I'm like,
Oh yeah,
you know, so yeah, that was something I noticed.
yeah, definitely. Like I didn't follow that train of thought until like you just mentioned it, but it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
And then Judd walks in with more of her stuff, and we quickly learn that Judd and Tommy go back. He actually introduced him to Grace, which I love that part. And like, and
I love it.
And like when he was like trying to give her a hug, and she kind of just looked at him. He's like, "Oh my god, the social distancing is so hard in a moment like this."
Yeah.
And we learned that she trained Michelle, which makes a lot of sense. I was like, oh, that's cool. I like how they threw so much into her character. Like, she knows Michelle, and Owen's like, oh, so you know Michelle? And she's like, yeah, I trained her and stuff. And I'm like, oh, they gave us so much in that.
That also gives us a timeline for Michelle
Right?
herself.
Yeah.
Like, vaguely, because, like, Tommy stopped working a minimum of 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And so that gives us, like, an idea for both, like, Michelle's age and how long she's been working. Maybe even, it depends on how, like, what she was training her for, like, the captain part or the EMT, though I feel like it was the paramedic.
Yeah.
But, like, that just gives us a timeline for
Right?
both of them.
Yeah. I always pictured Michelle to be like I always pictured her to be in like maybe her late 30s, early 40s.
I had pictured, like, early 30s, mid-30s.
Yeah, I don't know. She just gave me
yeah.
an older vibe. I don't know why.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's Liv herself.
Oh, well, yeah.
But,
her sister was at least she was 28 because in the premiere she said it would have been her 20th birthday, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly. So that doesn't mean that she was just a little bit older than her sister. But that gives us an end part of a frame, so she has to be at least older than 29.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I definitely feel like she was like in her early 40s, and I mean, you can be a captain in your 30s, But I'd imagine that Tommy probably was her captain as when she was a paramedic, and then when Tommy left, maybe Michelle took her job, like took her position.
Yeah.
And also, that actually comes in on a debate we have had before on how long Michelle has been at the 126. Because Tommy was captain at the 126. We know because she and Judd worked together.
And she makes the comment that she knew that Owen had did renovations, but she didn't imagine what he had done.
Oh yeah, and her old office was nothing but a broom closet.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we have one of those if you want one. I loved assassin that.
Yeah.
But so I think even if like we don't know how long Nancy or Tim has worked there, but I think we can feel fairly assured that they were the original 126 paramedic crew.
Especially now.
Yeah.
I also like the broom closet comment because she was like I bet it's a nice broom closet, and Owen's like, I'd love to be a broom in my house or something along the lines of that.
Or something like that, or it's like it's not bad to be a broom.
I think that's more like what it was, something along the lines of that, but it was just so funny.
I'm like, yes, that is so on par with Owen. And then Tommy's comment to Judd after Owen leaves about like she feels like she needs a lot of Jesus and a little bit of Jack.
I love that line.
I'm like, yeah.
And
love it.
After that, we get a Texas roller derby. This is another scene that it seemed a lot of people were saying, like, somebody was telling me the other day, they're like, yeah, I thought that one was really long scene too. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree. Like, it was, like, rather long for what it was. Like, before the call even started, I saw that, but they also have to give you background on, but it was, like, a little more than background.
Yeah.
But
and that was the next instance of back in the saddle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think time-wise, it wasn't actually all that bad, because, like, we've had background, then emergency before. I think the only thing that made it seem longer, I think a lot of people might actually feel this, is that it was not one of my favorite emergencies. Yeah. Like, I wasn't feeling roped in, like, it was just kind of one of those... It was just an emergency.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't enrapturing.
I felt like almost for what it was supposed to be, like a roller derby scene, that I was kind of expecting something a little bit more. I think they were trying to ease in Tommy, like, as, like, on the show, as a character, show that, like, she's just easing into the job, and this is going to be her first call. It'll be an easy call or whatever, and they were trying to show that. But, like, I think compared to other emergencies, I think it was, like, it was just basic, I guess, is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was just a typical call, and, you know, and it was Tommy's first call back. I think for me, the only thing that really stood out and, like, kind of made it interesting was that while the patient that was on the ground, so the roller derby was, you know, one of the players had fallen on a piece of the track that had splintered, and so it was stuck in her, and she'd been impaled. And so the shirt she had on had a certain saying, I can't remember exactly, was something Kitty Crusher or something like that. And Marjan is standing there, and she's like, she's like, I recognize one of my own. And she's like, oh, you played? And she's like, yeah, I used to roller derby in Miami. So we learned that about Marjan, that she'd been in roller derby before. Yeah. And then the girl suggesting that she lace up again because they're going to be down a blocker. Yeah. And I'm like, maybe that's what we say. Because I remember we were talking about her boxing. Yeah. Maybe she wasn't boxing. Maybe she did lace up and she came back to roller derby.
Maybe.
And that's what the guys are watching.
That, if that's what
I would love that. I mean, yeah.
More than, like, a fight, I think. I would love that.
Like, I would love either, but, like, I honestly am thinking now that we've seen this scene, that's probably maybe what it's going to be. It just...
Yeah.
You know what? I might actually go back and, like, look at the surrounding bleachers in the scene and see if they look like the bleachers at the boys' room.
Yeah, that's why it makes you think it was a fight, because, like, I don't know, it just looks that way.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think that episode's going to be episode 4, from what I've heard people say.
Oh, Friends with Benefits.
Yeah, Yeah, because apparently that's supposed to be a very, like, Marjan episode. Like, it's supposed to be heavily focused on her. So that's why people are saying that, like, it could be that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Marjan's such a badass, and I love that. As is,
I love Marjan.
yeah, as is Natasha, so that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, cast perfectly.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then we go to Carlos's.
Dun-dun-dun.
Carlos!
Carlos's! Oh my
Yeah,
god.
okay. So, like, I love this scene, but also there were a few things about it that I'll, like, oh my god. So basically, we are, like, you see Marjan and Paul playing video games, which we pretty much, like, I was like, are they, like, in our last episode, I was like, are they playing video games? Like, was I seeing that right? And I was like, oh yeah, they are. And then, like, Carlos is in the kitchen preparing food, and then, like,
And I love that.
and I'm like, the door, someone knocks at the door, and it's TK, so Mateo answers it, and, like, he's, like, asking about the cheese balls. The first time the more and more I watch that scene, the more I cringe. I'm just like, oh my god, can you shut up? I love you, but please shut up.
Because he didn't pick up on TK's frustration.
Yeah,
He just
I feel
opened
like
the
he
door and
does
was like,
it.
Did you get the cheese balls? He does.
I feel like he has trouble picking up on some of the emotions, just like how we've seen in other episodes of, like, the various, like, the last season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like he just doesn't pick up on it. And it's like, okay, yeah, cringe a little bit. But also, I love that scene. Like, I don't really find it to be cringe necessarily, but also just kind of wanting to slap my hand over Mateo's mouth. Like, please shut up, Tom.
Yeah,
Just please shut up.
That's like the cheese balls is the only thing that makes it cringy. Everything else that comes with it is totally fine.
Oh,
like, it's just that I'm just like, oh.
Like, Mateo, are you having a love affair with these cheese balls? Like, what?
Yeah, TK's just like, I feel like you could literally, like, the tension TK has on his face, you could literally cut with a knife. Like, oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's what actually makes the cheese balls part more cringy, is because it's so easy to tell that TK's upset.
Right.
And it's like,
and you're like, he's upset and you're asking about cheese balls.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what's going on? And I love the
work on your bedside manner.
Yeah. Oh my god. But, like, TK's just like, because Mateo, my boyfriend, the boyfriend job, goes to a lot of trouble to make us healthy snacks and provides us a safe place for us to gather, so we can at least have some human erection in a certain age. I'm not going to spoil that with cheese balls.
Also, I forgot.
I love it.
And I'm like, that
at least
is
he admitted
me,
it.
though. Yeah. Love that.
Yes.
And then Carlos being like one of the most perceptive people in the room and just being like, yeah, he's
like, you seem tense or something like that.
Can you tell?
No shit.
Yeah, and Marjan's just like, I can tell, and I haven't even looked at you since you walked in.
Yeah.
And Paul's just like, me too. Yeah. And I'm like, well, obviously, you're Paul.
Right.
You're like, you know.
Yeah, and then, because TK explains, like, well, I had a little trouble getting out of the house.
Ugh.
And he's like, and they're like,
and you can tell that this has been a running conversation because all of them seem to know.
Like, oh, is that still going on?
Is that still going on? It's like, oh, it's worse.
Yes.
And then it flashes to the scene that we talked a lot about last episode.
Yeah.
Which was...
I don't feel like we need to touch on it again because
we nailed it.
It's literally just the scene that the promo showed.
Gwen, Owen, and TK Gwen and Owen banter with TK kind of just getting stuck in the middle, and so then it comes back to.
Do you think I have a death wish?
Yeah.
I need that and TK's face on a hoodie.
Shout!
Oh god!
Do you think I have a shout? Hello.
And so when we come back to Carlos's place, TK's like, they're like, is that still going on? He's like, oh, it's worse. And he's like, and then they're like, well, why is she still here? Doesn't she run a big law firm in New York? So we learn that she actually owns the law firm or runs it. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, she wanted to stay to help Owen with his cancer treatments and stuff. And Paul's like, what? By giving him another tumor?
I never caught that line. And I'm reading that right now. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Correct, though.
And then, Carlos was like, I've seen them together. He's like, I think they like sparring. They seem to be pretty well matched. And he's like, oh, there's no sparring. Nobody's wearing gloves.
And then you, flash to hook up in bed. Oh, that scene is actually cringe when Owen's like, "Oops, we did it again." I'm like, "Oh,
I'm
shut
like,
up."
oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm like, dude,
That's
you're
just
like
oh,
50, like, come on.
Yeah, so before we move on, I feel like there's an elephant in the Carlos's place right now.
yeah,
No.
As he would say.
The cutscene.
So we were given 2 promos, or several promos, with some Carlos and TK kisses, or at least them kissing, and then Carlos kissing the top of TK's head in the same scene. And they were cut from the episode.
Yeah.
I was pissed, because so for me, I can't watch the shows live because I don't have Fox. So I purchased the season pass on iTunes. So at midnight, it becomes available. So I had to wait till midnight to watch it.
Yeah.
But on social media, I kept getting messages about people being mad about it. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? So they cut it. But
so I hadn't even reached that scene before. I think actually, Kay, you messaged something about it, and I'm like, I'm actually okay with that. Like, I was prepared instead of going, wait, what happened? So I actually don't mind about that. But so, like,
see,
I was upset they were cut.
Well,
I think everybody's
upset.
They were cut.
And I feel like after I had a chance to think about it, the next morning, I think I'd shared among our little group chat that I think, so the tone of that scene was a frustrated TK trying to explain his frustrations to his friends and his boyfriend. And I don't feel like if they'd kissed and there'd been the little intimate kind of scenes between them, I don't think it would have come off as tense as they wanted it for the scene. So I feel like those might have been why it was cut. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just didn't, like, the kisses didn't go along with the tone. Like, I think Carlos would have calmed TK down before he had, like, a chance to explain things, and it wouldn't have gone the same way.
Yeah.
And also, like, thinking back to the promo, like, there was no indication of frustration or, like, TK's face was relaxed during, like, the kiss to the head and everything. I think there's a part of me that's hoping there's a different scene that, like, they actually weren't cut from, but, like, that come along later. For one thing, the lighting was different in the promos, and I think those may have just been a different take. Yeah. But there's still part of me
that's what I'm thinking. Because because we know if you follow Ronan or any of the cast and you hear them talk, they always talk about the fact that there's they have to do it like multiple times, multiple takes, different angles. Yeah. So they could have given us one angle and then, because I know like when you could tell that Carlos was kissing the top of TK's head because you could see his hands on his shoulders. But they were really zoomed up to TK, so you wouldn't, so they weren't pulled back on Carlos and him.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely upset, and I think my biggest upset about it is just I feel bad for the people who, Ronan and Rafa do amazing jobs with TK and Carlos, and they love Tarlos so much, and. I know the show and all the cast and crew talk about the inclusion and the representation, and I just feel like cutting 2 scenes or cutting 2 like 2-second kisses from the show wasn't really, because it can't say it was a timing thing, because it just, there was other places in the episode where they could have cut a few seconds out to make up for that. So I don't know, I'm bummed, and I feel bad for the community that wasn't represented in that moment to just see casual kisses between boyfriends. The only thing I could think of is that tone wise, I just don't think that the kisses fit with the tone. So that's my thoughts on it.
I mean, see, originally when I first watched it, I wasn't really furious or mad or anything about it. I was more like frustrated about it, because I was like, okay, well, we still have a full season left. It's not like they're not gonna kiss the whole season. Like, we have so many more moments that we haven't even seen, and we know that there's 2 scenes that are going to be the new police station and dinner scene that's Ronan's tease and stuff later, and I can only imagine what that will be.
So can I ask a question about that? Are we thinking of the dinner scene, the one that was cut that we never got?
No.
Or are we thinking the dinner scene that was a failed dinner scene?
The failed dinner, maybe the failed dinner scene. Well, it's not like those scenes we're gonna get like duplicates. It's more like his feeling, and he loves the dinner scene and the police station scene. Like, the police station scene, I think, was his number 1. I think the dinner scene was his number 2. So to him, those are very special scenes. So it's more like for him. But, like, I don't know. I think it's also too soon to react on this because it was only 2 seconds and we still haven't seen so many things. So,
Yeah.
and like we've talked about how it
think-
doesn't fit. And I think I was thinking about this last night and I was like trying to write down what I was thinking. But I was like, I also think it would have been really unnatural. Like, yes, I think TK is comfortable enough to kiss his boyfriend in front of his friends. But like, also, like,
Yeah.
I think it would have just seemed forced in a way. Like, they had, like, if they kept it in, like, they had to put it in. So, I'd rather have, like, another, like, we know we're going to get another hangout because he's wearing a different shirt. And it's, like, the one where Mateo has his shirt off and TK's wearing that blue and striped shirt. Yeah. So, maybe there's hope. I mean, I'm sure there is. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine that they tease Tarlos this much and they don't give him, like, a kiss or just anything. And like, I don't know, just I think everyone's reactions were like warranted and like everyone, it's valid, but like to say the show is homophobic and like some things people are saying were just like way out there, like if that were true they wouldn't have gave us a sex scene in Lily's second episode of the show. So like think about that.
I think I have mixed feelings about the entire thing. Like obviously, like I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated that we didn't get those scenes, but I think the reactions afterwards frustrated me more. Yeah. Because this is the first episode of a season. And I think, as you guys said, we will be getting more. Yeah. Tarlos is one of the biggest couples, basically on TV, but especially in the show. Definitely, Ronan and Rafa, they would not stand for there not being anything for Tarlos. Like, seriously, guys, do you think they would stand for that? No. They are literally the biggest fans of Tarlos themselves. You may think
you're the biggest fan of Tarlos. You're not.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're not. And it's the great thing is that the actors are the biggest fans. Yeah. So I think it's way too far. Like, it's going way too far to call the show homophobic because there is literally nothing to support that except a couple kissing scenes, but we also get TK calling Carlos his boyfriend for the first time in that scene. So
while he's in the room,
he's in the room
publicly because like his whole like his colleagues are there and their friends too, of course. But like to say that like be comfortable calling him your boyfriend in front of your friends and colleagues, that's real big.
So I'm like, I am sorry if anyone felt like underrepresented or anything like that, but I think it is way too soon to start throwing hands basically at the show producers because who knows what they have in store for us.
Yes.
Like seriously.
You're right, and I think you're right. It is the beginning of the season. I think my only concern is that we show it enough that there's representation and we don't start losing ratings from it, so people may and you're right, like I hope that people just give them a chance because this is the first episode of the season, and
like people just stick around, see what happens.
Now if 3 or 4 episodes,
give it the season give it the season.
Now if a few episodes in they start we notice they're still cutting stuff out that they shouldn't be cutting, then be upset,
especially stuff they're promoting. Like that I think is the most bum-worthy thing, because in the Tarlos promo we got those scenes, and so it built excitement, and obviously there has to be some form of baiting. I wouldn't call it queer baiting, but there has to be some form of baiting to like get people excited, but that was too much. Take out those scenes.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, as like a show and as a storyline, 2 seconds is really not going to serve you as much as I'm sure their bigger scenes are, but obviously it's still very important to see that and stuff. And I guess like my final thing on this before we move on is like I'm just happy we at least saw it. We never saw that second dinner scene, and at least we saw this, and like we got at least we saw it in general rather than not getting it at all. I mean, I guess we wouldn't have.
Right. I am glad we did get it.
At least we saw it. So that was like my thing, is at least we saw it because we at least can have that engraved in our brains and rewatch it. But like,
it's better than getting the solitary still.
Right. That's what I was just gonna say, is that at least we got the actual action of the kisses, whereas we got the hug in the scene, but we didn't get any context or didn't get any clip or even a portion of it
Yeah.
in a promo.
I mean,
And they cut that scene because it didn't fit the rest of the episode.
right.
it was because it was the same, basically similar to episode 2. That dinner scene, it was similar context, and they kind of already had the discussion. So I think that's why.
And from what I understood, they basically replaced that scene with the club scene, or for basically the Tarlos moment. Like, that's kind of what they made it up
Yeah.
for. I don't know. I think just closing thing, let's see what happens next.
You can only, like, it's very early. It's too soon to even, like, think anything about that. But, yeah, then I think the next thing that happened was Tommy waking up after working her first 24-hour shift since being back, and her kids had already went off to school or whatever, and she kind of freaked out, which understandably so, but like I was just like, okay, like I don't know, I didn't really, some of her scenes I didn't really care for, I'm gonna be honest. I like her character, but like I almost feel like they gave us so much going in, like we knew so much about her character that I was kind of like underwhelmed in the first episode, and I hope that like it gets better. Not that it's bad, but like I was just expecting, I don't know, a little bit more, not like content wise, but like I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know, I was underwhelmed.
Honestly, I really liked that scene because I think that really showed the struggle of a working mom, especially someone who just got back into the work field and who's trying to like maintain the balance of her work life and her children's life, especially for a first responder, because they have uncertain hours. It isn't a 9-to-5 job. No, it's overnight. It's 24 hours to 48 hours sometimes. Yeah, it's really a struggle, and so I liked seeing that, especially since I think my future self, if that makes any sense, feels represented, because I want to be a mom, but I am also going to be a first responder. And so that just feels very, I wouldn't say, I don't know if representative is too far or very necessary. It's neither of those things necessarily, but it felt really impactful for me.
Yeah, that scene. So when I first saw it, I was like, what's going on here? Like, I didn't realize it. Like, I wasn't sure if she was waking up in a dream. You know, because it just had a kind of an odd feeling. And then her, you know, she gets up and
it felt abrupt.
Right.
I'd give it that. Like, it felt very abrupt.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, and I wasn't really sure like what they were trying to get. And then like, because when they showed the empty beds, the kids' beds, I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And then she's like getting all upset, and I'm like, that's valid. I mean, you know, it's the first, like, her first day back to work. She comes home expecting to see her kids, and her kids are already gone to school, and they didn't wake her up to, you know, say goodbye or whatever. So, you know, having been used to that for the last 7 or 8 years, I can understand her being upset.
Definitely.
You know, the first day back, but I don't know. Yeah, it was just a little.
I think the one thing I have against this scene is it felt a little overdone.
That's what it was for me.
Okay.
Yeah, like I enjoyed the scene. I enjoyed like what the scene was meant to convey. I think it was very important, especially showing like her just coming back after, as she said, the better part of a decade.
Right.
But I don't know. For me, someone whose emotions are rather quieter, it felt a little overdone.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like, it's not that I don't, like, I like her character and everything, and we're just getting to know her, so obviously I'll probably love her way more towards the end of the season. I still like her, but I just think it was just like, I've honestly probably seen similar things to this, so it did seem overdone and stuff. Like, we get the point and stuff, but like they're kind of building her character up. Everyone else we know, like, pretty well. We have a good background. They have to build her up after they've already done that for everyone else in season 1.
So I will be interested to see what happens next with her character, just overall, because obviously this is the first season, or the first episode, and in the second season, and her first part of the season. Sorry, I completely stumbled over my words there. But I think between the volcano and then the wildfire, I actually feel like the next episodes are going to be a little too jam-packed with urgencies to focus quite as much on Tommy Ankle really any other angle.
Right.
I'm honestly just thinking in my head. I think going off of that season, episodes 2 and 3, I think are going to be very like emergency packed. We're going to get a lot of those scenes. Not necessarily, maybe at least in my head, I don't think we're going to get too many personal scenes. We will be getting that cake scene next episode. I do know that and stuff, but I think it's going to be very emergency packed. And then I think episodes 4, 5, and possibly throughout the rest of the season, we'll get more of the low key like hangouts, those type of scenes and stuff.
Yeah, like we do know we're going to get a couple more personalized scenes, like the helicopter. We're going to. I should not personalize so much to say, but like personal emotions.
Yeah.
Like TK's emotions, like as we see him walk through. My guess is a medical tent during the wildfire, and obviously we get to see the 118 and the 126 meet up.
Yeah,
and we're going to have some of those more personalized scenes because they're not just going to meet up and head straight into the fire. Like, I feel like we're going to get a lot more bonding than that.
Right.
But, like, focusing more on episode 2, like, with Wildfire, obviously we get the cake scene, which now, we will address this later, but, like, now we know Owen is in remission, so I feel like it has to do with that.
Yeah.
But I could be very wrong about that.
Now we, like, know, so, yeah. But the next scene we get is the guy working on the cell tower, and originally they thought he was having a heart attack, so Owen and Tommy climb up there, and actually, even before that, Tim's standing there, and Tommy, like, goes up to him and, like, touches, like, his shoulder, and she's, like, sees blood, and she, like, looks at the ground where there's dripped blood, and he's like, what's that? And she's just like, this guy might be like bleeding up there or whatever.
I think that's when she's like, give me
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna need one of those
because she,
harnesses.
as paramedic, needs to go up. Which I think this was like a key moment of development for her that didn't feel drawn out.
Yes, that's how.
And it was also bonding between her and Owen, which I have a feeling that's going to be like one powerful duo.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to seeing their scenes in the future.
That's how I felt. And
but
so
they climb up and hit with a freaking crossbow.
Yeah,
which
Tommy opens up the wound or opens up his like pant leg, and you see she's like, "That's no
that's not a bullet hole
I've ever
that's
seen."
Not...
And then Owen gets hit with one, and they realize it's a crossbow.
Yeah,
so he's all radioing the team, and TK gets the message. Yeah, so TK's like, "What? We're not hearing anything."
Like, what?
It's a crossbow.
His face in that, like, I think he would have felt far more concerned if he was realizing what happened, but he kind of looked like that.
And, like, they're all, like, watching from above, like, they're standing on the truck, and TK's just, like, jumps down. He's like, hey, like, guys, we have to go stop him, and Jed's like...
Oh, but before that, Paul.
Yep.
Like, doing the figuring out where the guy
like, what window is coming from, and somebody was like... how can you tell? And he's like, that's the only one that's next to an air conditioning vent. Like, why would you have the window open?
So that would mask the twang of the bow, and also,
it was more like, why would you have the window opened in September if you're next to an AC unit?
Right.
I didn't even catch that because my mind was more like masking any sound of the shot. Because arrows are silent, or like very silent, but like the twang of the bow isn't as much, and you still get the whoosh of air.
No.
So I was like thinking, like deadening sound, but very okay. Now I feel like an idiot.
No, you're not an idiot.
No, my dad's like one of those people that likes to save money in the most way possible, so there's no way we have the windows open while we have the AC running, so that's just where my mind goes.
Oh, for sure. I think it was a mix of like me not realizing all the facts of that. But, and then TK...
Then he freaks out.
Impulsive baby, like wanting to go. But everyone was ready to go. But
he just...
Then Jed's like, hey, kill
I know, so like they're all grabbing like an axe and a tool and a crowbar. He's like, hey.
Like, did you think we do not need to get TK shot
killers?
Which we hear more about later, but
hey killers, if we're gonna do this, let's do this smart.
Right. He's like, APD's gonna be here in like 2 minutes. And like, that's 2 minutes my dad might not have up there.
And Marjan's like, yeah, Cap's ass is breezing in the wind or something like that.
I love this scene so much. And this makes so much more sense with like the fire hose scene that we've got.
Yeah, that was like the first promo too. Like the mini one.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think when we first got those promos, we were like, wait, what's happening there?
I think I thought it was
because it was not like full gear for fire. It was not. Right. But I love what they did there.
Blow the hose, up to him, which, distracts them while Marjan, Mateo, and Paul crash into the apartment and grab him. That was good.
Yeah, I liked the fire hose part, just, like, going back to that real quick, where, like, so, like, you just see TK, like, turn on the hose, and Judd's like, hey! And TK's just like, suck it!
I love that.
He's like, that's enough.
And then Judd's just standing behind him, like, and one of my friends was like, Judd's, like, a proud, like, older brother.
Yeah. He's, like, standing there, And
I'm like, love that.
And both of them probably have to think, this is one of the weirdest things I've ever done.
This, like, lady, they like, get into her apartment. She's, like, the epitome of, like, the somebody in the beginning of the... She was, like, one of those people that's so freaked out. She has, like, basically, like, a ski mask on with, like, gloves, something taped on them, like... It's to the extreme, like...
Mm-hmm.
Let's just know, I have been in quarantine for about 11 months now. And my family has never gone to that extreme. Like, I thought we were extreme. We are not extreme.
Yeah. And the, like, filters on her mask were beer cans.
Oh, yeah. That was just, like, oh my god. Like, they had to do that, and they did it so well, too. Because, like, I can... And, like... so much. And then, like, Paul's just like...
like, sorry, lady, you have to go to prison, and guess what the COVID rates are there.
And Paul's just like, wow.
Yeah. He's holding the bow, and he's like, wow.
And then, like, then we'll meet...
And then the Tarlos
so we get, like, this, and, like, Carlos pulls up, and stuff, and he's just like, if you get yourself shot again, you're never making it out of the doghouse. And TK...
And my first thought was, okay, with you, because that gives all sorts of thoughts to everybody.
Yeah.
You, but do you mean with his
and TK's just like, maybe don't make us do your job for you next time. And then Carlos is...
And the context for this promo scene,
finally.
Like, firefighters, you really are a smug bunch.
You love it.
Like, you love it.
We finally got the context. I love it.
And I love it more than I ever thought.
And it was a different take from in the promo, which I liked. Mm-hmm. I liked this take better, and they also did that for another scene that comes up soon and stuff. And I just loved that. And like then Paul was just like, what was her problem? And Carlos was just like, according to her, she was trying to stop the spread of COVID-19. She read on the internet that it was being spread by 5G towers.
And Mateo...
I have heard that.
And Mateo's like, everybody hates the cell phone company.
Yeah, he's like, I told you everyone hates the phone company.
But what Paul asks Carlos is, what was her deal, Lady Legolas with the crossbow, which was another Lord of the Rings
reference, and I loved that. Yeah. Like, me being a huge Lord of the Rings fan, I'm like,
I loved Legolas. I loved Legolas. Orlando Bloom did his well.
I love him. Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay, fangirling about something else. Sorry, okay. We moved on.
Me sitting here like I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Okay, we need to do a movie day with like Lord of the Rings and Hobbit. Like that. Actually, that'll have to be like many days because just one of the trilogies adds up to like 9 hours. But
wait. Before I continue,
anyway. And here, Owen, Tommy, the promo scene, like I think we're gonna have some fun together. And
different take again. And I like this.
Yes, I know. So I'm like,
it.
Okay,
no, it wasn't. They must have did like several different like either she did that or they like told her to say different things.
Well, they might have had to cut it out because if they were going to air that commercial during any time that was like before like 8 p.m., they would
True.
have to like probably not be able to use ass because it's considered a cuss word, maybe.
Not in my language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. No. But I'm like, having the context behind that too,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yes, I am looking forward to this power duo. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. Alright, so we have the Doctor Zoom call.
Yeah. So this is like the scene we kind of dreaded. It was like kind of what we didn't want to happen, but we literally knew this was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And stuff like, I knew this was coming. I knew that they would only make him like go through his cancer for a season, then they would be like, okay, he's cured.
Right.
And
I would do that too.
Yeah, obviously we don't want him to like always have cancer, but this is just way too soon.
Yeah.
And I was definitely disappointed by that.
Yeah. It's just like unrealistic in
Yeah.
a sense because like there's nobody that goes through chemo and cancer that fast. Like
Well,
not necessarily. Like
maybe
not
like
this fast.
very late stages. I know my aunt had like cancerous tissue and stuff. She had cancer for a while, but it cured really fast. But I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
I'm happy it happened, but
Yeah.
to me, I wanted more of it.
Yeah, it was just too quick for me. Like, I know, like, his wasn't that bad, so, like, theoretically, it could have cleared up faster. But, like, my grandma had cancer, and she didn't take chemo. She had, like, chemo pills, and she was on those, like, basically, like, for 5 to 10 years. And, like, everyone's different, too. Like, we have to think about that. But also, like, just...
Yeah.
It was, like, way too fast. I would assume it was, like, less than a year. And it just seemed too hopeful. And I was just like, but, like, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was so much of it was off screen. I wanted to see more about it on screen.
right. Well,
And so...
okay. So I've talked about my mom having cancer. My mom was first initially diagnosed with 1B cervical cancer, and which is exactly the same stage Owen's lung cancer was diagnosed at.
Yeah.
And the first time she went through treatment, she started in end of September, did treatment all of October and early November, did some internal radiation in November, and by December she had been given a clean bill of health because like they zapped that sucker.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that makes sense. But, like, I don't know. Like, it just seems, like, kind of unrealistic. Like, I was just like, okay, this is way too
Right.
fast. And, like, I don't know. Just from, like, my mom's best friend also had cancer. And, like, hers, like, from what I can recall, this was, like, a couple years ago. She has now since passed and stuff. But, like, I can remember her going through treatment for at least a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it is everyone's different, and like we have
Right.
to remember that. But like as like a show, I was like expecting.
Yeah.
I think for me
Yeah.
it was just plain we didn't see most of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like it barely happened. If
Right.
that makes any sense.
It's
Yeah.
like a blink of what we could have seen.
Yeah. Like obviously we get some references to what happened, but
Right.
I will say I'm not convinced that's all there is to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whether his cancer may come back or there may be a couple complications, something, I'm not convinced that's all there is to
Yeah,
it.
it's not.
But
Yeah, and it's not.
well, it's not completely gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 75% strength or something like that.
Yes.
So he still needs like surgery or whatever to remove it and
Yeah.
stuff. So there's definitely more
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah,
But-
and then I'm fine with it because I know like we know this is set in September, so they said about a month since he had his last chemo. So that would have been like August, and if we're talking like maybe January to August, I'm like, okay, that's possible that he did some sort of chemo treatment. Or
Yeah.
even like March to August, so that's like 4 or 5 months of chemo.
Yeah.
And it's the remission word that she used that bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remission is not until you've been cancer-free for 2 years. And we know this has not been 2 years. So
this has not even been a year.
She could have said his numbers were back to the normal range. She could have said, you're back to normal. I mean, she could have said a lot of other things besides the word remission. And I know it's a drama show. They're going to, they're going to use remission because that's what everybody knows of when you're cancer-free. And so I get it. I think that's what bothered me the most. But yeah, you're right. Like, we didn't see him going through the chemo and, just seeing him getting sick. And so that was, but, and then to on top of, just the news, they're on Zoom. So they're in their kitchen with the laptop and TK and Gwen are with him. And so I thought that was really cool that they were all there for the appointment. And then, like, right as she's starting to talk about all the information, the Zoom freezes.
Oh, my gosh.
So, like, 2 quotes from 2020 is, "You're on mute," and "Oh, you froze." What'd you say? I'm like, seriously, those are, like, the quotes. So then, like, they're like, "Wait, what?" And then, she comes back and she's all talking about, like, counseling. And he's like, "So it's bad?" And she's like, "What? Did I freeze?" Oh, man. She's like, "I can make house calls."
She goes and talking about her house calls instead of reassuring them that it's fine. But, like, also, I like the doctor. Like, I like the character.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I wanted to hug TK because he looked like he was about to, like, faint or, like, kind of flip out a little bit.
Yeah. He looks
even more so than either Gwen or Owen himself. It's like, and, like, I feel that. I do feel that in a way.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, darling, just take a breath.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this was halfway through the episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the point in the episode where I was like, where the F is Buttercup? Like, come on.
Yes!
I was like, show me Buttercup or I'm leaving.
They need to work. They need to clear that up. There's been nothing in the promos about Buttercup. Not a word.
Yeah, I mean,
has been whispered.
Yeah.
Like, even it may be something. Maybe the handler of the dog who plays Buttercup. Maybe they don't want to be on set at the moment or something. That's fine. Give us an explanation, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Where is
and
Buttercup?
Don't kill him off.
Yeah. I mean,
that has been my worry.
Yeah.
That they were going to do that. And I'm like, no. I'm rebelling.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to put Buttercup in a promo, but, like, at least show him if you can, please.
He's one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yes!
I think to give... Yes, he is. He's one of my favorites.
He's so cute!
Yes! I think we haven't seen that much at the firehouse yet.
Yeah.
So I am hoping we see more, but I'm really going... Where is he? I think that probably is one of the biggest questions at the moment. Like, hello?
I'm going to start a hashtag, where is Buttercup?
There you go.
Do it. It'll be right up there with best fans in the world. Like, it will be up there.
Yes.
Oh my god, I'm so gonna do. I just have so many things running through my brain right now. Cooper just yawned. If Buttercup doesn't show up, I'll volunteer Cooper.
Yes.
He is the Buttercup.
I think with this scene, with the Zoom call scene, it was something I was resentful for at first because of, like, we'd hoped for a little bit more expansion on the cancer area. Mm-hmm. But later I actually started not minding it quite so much because I'm like, they're not going to leave it just there. Like, that sounds very out of character for them.
Yeah.
So, with that. But the freezing moment, if you have used Zoom at all, you have had that moment.
Oh, yeah. Right. So many times.
Oh, my gosh. It's been a bear.
Right.
Even just on our Zoom calls with each other, like our weekly Zoom calls, like, we'll freeze, and it's like, our voice may continue, but we'll be stuck in the weirdest position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Though, did you... there's that. But then, did you see Ronan's bee tattoo?
Yeah.
So that's visible.
I didn't, actually. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was visible because he had said that they were gonna let him keep that one. They're not letting him keep the 8 for Kobe, but they're letting him keep the B, and then his SOS, and then the other one's not visible.
Yeah.
And stuff, so they don't have to worry about that. Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had
shirtless
to.
with
Yeah,
Tarlos.
I have a feeling that tattoo is literally like somewhere where like they won't be able to see. I honestly like unless they do, this is never gonna happen. It's Fox. Unless there's full on nudity, we're not gonna see it.
I mean, we got most.
I mean, they're gonna cover
I think
it
we're
up
going to be
either
cutting.
way.
I think we're going to be cutting parts outside of. We saw it. We saw a basic full nudity with smiley face killers, but it was still covered. Every single one of his tattoos were covered.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
he
He
didn't have
he
some of
also
them
had
by
then.
a palm tree on his side. I have
Yeah.
never seen that.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, he's yeah.
But so they cover
Yeah.
his flower and they cover his.
Oh yeah,
8
I
and
forgot
his
about
palm
that
tree.
one. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
about that one.
It's a flower and a hummingbird on his kind of shoulder area.
Is there a hummingbird?
I only noticed the flower.
He was listing his tattoos. I don't remember there being a hummingbird.
I know.
I can
it
see
might
him
not
getting a
be.
hummingbird.
No, I think it's just flower. It's
It
like
could just
3.
be a big flower. Maybe some of the petals are falling off. That might be
Yeah,
what
it's a
Yeah.
the petals are falling
I
out.
remember like the meaning for like most of them, but like I'm like I forget about him sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, right, he does have that.
Well,
Yeah,
and
the flowers for his grandmother.
There was
Correct.
one day he showed a video or a picture of him in his hot tub, and he goes, "Yes, that's makeup cover up or whatever."
Yes.
He's like, so we know that's one's covered up because he's
Yeah.
coming home or whatever, and it's kind of washing off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then like after the appointment's over, like TK's all excited. He's like, "That's amazing! Everybody at the firehouse is gonna freak." They're excited. Owen's got that hesitation of like let's just not say anything right now. Everybody's gonna be like just and which I totally understand because you're like,
Oh yeah.
he's not wanting to like jump. And I love his football reference there. He's like, I don't want to do a touchdown dance in the end zone and then have it reversed when the refs in playback. And I was like, oh, it's a football episode. And hey, this is episode 12 of our podcast. And Seahawks fans, we're called 12s. So Grace and I were 12s.
Yeah.
So had to put that in there.
Yes,
And, like-
loved that.
And like and like the major reason why he didn't really want anyone to know yet because he wanted to get a second opinion before like saying anything because like and that's like very understandable like
oh yeah,
even if you trust your doctor like I would want to know for sure if it's actually like this good of news because sometimes like they say sometimes like bad news is better than good news because if it's good news you're doubtful that it actually is good news so
right, which is
And it's better to put bad news on somebody than be able to brighten up with good news. Like, if something gets reversed, then they have to do the opposite.
yeah, and well, I mean, and that's why the doctor was offering counseling. She had mentioned, like offering counseling. She's like, just because sometimes it's just as hard to process good news as it is bad news.
correct yeah
Which is totally true. Like, there's, some people can fall on one scale and the other side as well.
yeah
And, and then Gwen is talking about, to him after TK leaves the room that, she's like, we kind of find a little more out, like the last few rounds of chemo were pretty tough on Owen. He was getting sick and he's like, well, it's kind of hard to complain to the woman holding your barf bag. So apparently he did get pretty sick with it.
yeah which
And
I think
Which I was glad for that reference.
Yeah, the mention.
Actually, like, not just leaving it there.
I mean we saw that in like episode 2 or 3 I can't remember which one and stuff like how he was sick like they kind of showed like he was just like
It's like the first or second time he met Lil Wayne.
that was 4 right before the
yes
tornado,
I couldn't
if I
remember
remember correctly.
it's all blur.
Because there was the whole thing about like the vegan place at TK. Was like,
Yeah, it was episode 4 yeah
Yep.
it's all coming back.
Yep.
I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder being able to
Go Grace.
nail that one.
I mean, I don't know. We can mention this anywhere, but so Gwen's name is Gwyneth. I guess it's spelled Gwyneth. So I've always written her short Gwen as Gwen.
Same.
But
That's the most common
Right. So
spelling
when I was
of it.
watching the show, I put the captions on so I can like take notes sometimes when we're like I'm taking notes for like the podcast. And so they keep using GWYN as the shorthand. And so I'm like, I'm going to keep using EN because that's like I keep forgetting, and then like I'm just going to use EN because that's where I'm sticking to.
Yeah. It's just easier, and like it's just not to butcher her name or anything, but like it's a character. I don't care. It's like it's just like more normal. Like saying like I don't know. Just it makes I'm just gonna be like this looks wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I mean I like both spellings of it, so I'm fine alternating. But honestly, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. Everyone will know who you're talking about.
People were spelling it like that for the longest time, and I'm like, you guys are wrong. That's not how you spell it, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's like random and like not really necessary. And like, shoot, the only way you would have learned her name in the first place is if you'd had the captions on during, that episode 9?
9
with the awakening.
Yeah.
And in this same scene, we find out, like, at the end, she's like, well, I feel like since, you've got good news and everything, now she's decided to go back to New York. And Owen kind of, like, are you sure? Like, you don't really have to leave. And
you can tell he's, like, hedging around, outright asking her to stay.
I mean...
But surprisingly, he doesn't take a very long time.
He likes having her around, which... I don't know. I'm not like crazy about this, and I do know that like it will end. Like it's not gonna like last forever. I think they're kind of like in a honeymoon phase where they kind of like got back of some of those things that they used to have, and it has to die down at some point. So I don't know.
Like I'm not shipping it.
No.
I don't mind it necessarily, but I don't want it to last.
Some of it's cute, some of it's kind of cringy, and I'm just like,
Yeah, like, that's a very good description of it. But I'll be interested to see what happens. I do not dislike
No, I don't either.
Do I love her yet? No, but I like her. And I don't know, I'll just be very interested to see what they do with that, but I cannot see it as the end game. And I think that's actually maybe what helps me like her more, because I don't see it
I just think that like storyline can't go on forever. But
and if it does, I think TK will need to like move out. Because baby cannot keep going through this.
Honestly, like, okay, so I guess our next scene we have is the Zoom call gone bad, I like to call it. That was literally...
Yeah.
That is my favorite scene of the whole episode.
I wouldn't go that far.
Let's be honest
personally, but, like, it's really funny. I like it. Like, you have, like...
I mean,
I don't know have that one really lady that, scene, like, in the middle of the call, she goes to the bathroom. That's actually happened to people.
And they're like, Mary, no, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything.
Dead.
And I'm like, oh my god. But I feel like that's everyone's fear. And then like with any sort of mobile...
go to the bathroom, I wouldn't bring my phone or my laptop with me. Like, I would leave the room.
For one thing, my luck, I would forget to mute it. Turn off video.
Yeah, I definitely don't bring it with me. Like, come on now. And then she's...
That's kind
of...
No,
that was...
No. I know some people who, like, on, like, a FaceTime, like, a one-on-one FaceTime that do that. And I'm like, okay, but that's mainly, like, family. So that doesn't matter quite as much, but if it was anyone other than family, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Stop.
And then you get the guy that's like eating, and then he starts choking, and then here comes in
and
then you get Paul, Marjan, and Mateo and stuff, and they like give the guy the Heimlich and stuff like that and stuff.
And I love how you see it through the Zoom perspective. So you're watching everybody just going,
right. And then Paul tries to go over and he's like talking to the camera and they're like, you're on mute. And I was like, again, with that like typical Zoom,
gosh,
people forget you're on mute sometimes. But then he's like, they're going to be fine or whatever. And
yeah. I loved that though. Like, probably, even if it's not my favorite scene, it's up there and it's probably the funniest.
Yeah.
Like, That is perfect and so relatable. Alright, so next is another Tommy scene, but we also get Grace and Judd. Oh my gosh, okay, let's be honest, I don't know, for lack of a better word, foreplay, or leading towards foreplay. Yeah. Up until when you hear that. Honestly, that was probably the scene that has dragged most for me. Just because I started going, okay, how long is this going to be exactly? Right. And then you hear the knock, and I'm like, oh, this is why they're still doing the scene. But I feel like it could have been even just a couple seconds shorter, and it's like I did this again. None of these scenes I dislike, but it just felt a little dragging. Yeah. But then Grace and Judd showing up, and then them kind of looking knowingly.
Oops, we just ruined something.
I was surprised to go, alright, let me just, let's leave you.
Grace is just like, oh, I'm sorry, no, you can take this cheesecake, and we'll go. And she's like, no, don't be silly, like, go sit down, and I'll get some plates, and, Judd just looks at the husband, and he's just like, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, and he hands him the bottle of Jack from the bottle.
Can we please get a name?
I can't remember his name.
We haven't gotten
I can't remember his name. Yeah.
Have we gotten?
Not on the show. They haven't said his name, but people have said what his name is. I just can't remember what it is. So
I hear Grace typing.
Grace, I'm looking it up. Yeah, I can do that research.
Oh dear. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean it was. And I love because we learned obviously earlier in the episode that Judd met Grace through Tommy, so it's kind of cool, so you can kind of see their friendships outside of the firehouse.
Oh, Charles. That's what it was. That's why I didn't remember it.
I first had to find the actor, and then I looked up him in 911. So his name is Charles.
Okay, good to know. And now I can stop calling him the husband. Right.
I was just like, okay, we need to get this dude's name.
He's more than.
Okay. I love how everyone's just hearing me.
He's more than the husband.
The husband. Yes, he has a
name. He does have a name. I just, for whatever reason, I just didn't bother, figuring out what it was.
Right. Moving on to the second to last scene of the episode. Gwen's kind of bringing her luggage out, and she's ready to leave, and then Owen kind of, they're talking and trying to not, he doesn't want her to leave, and she's like, I don't know. It was.
I love his you don't always get second chances.
I like what they said.
And I'm like, that's true. Even if it doesn't work out, which I know most of us are hoping it doesn't. It's always good to at least take a second chance. If it's a good idea to take a second chance.
And something they did this twice, and I forgot to mention it earlier. But in the hookup scene, whatever you want to call that. When Gwen was like, what about TK? I don't want to confuse him. I was like, he is a 26-year-old man, and you're worried about confusing him? Are you serious? He's not a 6-year-old kid. He's a...
It very much felt like they were talking about a child and not their adult son. And I love how their adult son is known the entire time.
They're like, oh, yes, we have to tell TK. And TK's like, TK knows.
He's like, what do you know?
You hear the voice. At first, I didn't realize it was TK. And then they turned the camera on. I'm like, oh, that.
Yeah, Gwen's like, what do you know? And he's like, more than any son should.
More than any son should. And their faces.
I'm a TK.
And then he's like, the walls here are not that
who else knows? Everybody.
Everybody.
He tells Carlos. Carlos tells Paul. Paul tells Mateo. Mateo tells Marshawn. That's how I think.
Yeah, pretty much. And I bet. And Judd probably knows too. Obviously we don't see him, but I wish we had more of Judd and the rest of the team. I didn't feel like he was quite as included in some of the scenes.
I want him to be included in the hangouts because I feel like part of me feels like just because he's married that he doesn't hang out with them.
Bring Grace over. Seriously.
Grace and I don't know why because TK and Judd are the only ones that are in relationships. So I'm just like, oh, Grace can talk to Carlos, and that's just, I don't know. It's a little, I don't know. It's just so random, but I would like that. I feel like they would get along well.
Yeah. And then Gwen's like, well, he's a wise ass. Remember when he was young and adorable? And I was like, no, not really.
That was the best.
But the cool thing is, TK was in a black hoodie. He was in a hoodie.
Yeah, I was like,
Hoodie!
I was like, first
love his
hoodie sighting
hoodies.
of the season, black. We love.
Yes.
We need at least
Yeah,
one.
that's what I said. I told Roden that. And we need a red one because he wants that. He told me that it came from straight from the source.
Heard it here first, people.
I mean, I don't have any proof to back that up, but that's not my fault.
It was DreamCon. You can't record it. And then our last scene, which is a prelude to our episode 2, which is the girl in food truck. And I love her. She's like, I bought a food truck in February.
That sucks.
Which is right before the world went to hell.
Yeah.
So, it's like, oh girl,
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah,
Like,
I know people
oh my
that bought cars literally before the pandemic started, and so like they
they're not even
exactly or not
driving
driving them as much as they would be in normal terms. So yeah, and then like you see like her in the food truck and stuff, and then you see outside it's literally burning up, and I'm like, okay, so this did not start in a swimming pool.
No.
And then it cuts out or, you know, this could be a taken scene from after the swimming pool.
Well,
that's my thought.
From what I remember and the few on-set stuff, so I think it happens at a mini golf course.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Oh.
So
I don't remember anything
we'll talk
about
about
that.
it when we talk about the promo for the next episode.
Yes. And yeah, so that was like basically everything they gave us. I guess before we get to the promos, we'll talk about like people that basically post on our story like a little question thing, and if you guys want to, we'll probably do that like every week, closer to when we record the podcast. And if you guys want to tell us your opinions, you tell us through DMs too. You don't have to tell us in there, because I know like
but please
Twitter,
feel
anywhere.
free to tell us. Like,
yeah,
we will be happy
and we'll
to
probably
hear
share
everything.
Share them and stuff. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
if we get a ton, it'll be hard to share them all, but we'll try our best. So,
Yeah,
this
we'll
one
try.
says, thought it was a great episode. Owen's speech was perfect. I love seeing Judd happy. I'm glad Gwen is staying. And I'm like, I obviously I didn't expect her to be out in the first episode, but I don't want her to become permanent, which I don't think she will. From my understanding, like...
She's a reoccurring guest character. That is what she has been
Yeah.
termed as.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, and there was other things I want to see. Oh, these are like more theories about the crossover, so I suppose, save those when we actually get to that part, because it would make logical sense.
So there were 2 promos.
Correct.
So there was one played right after this show, because I didn't watch it obviously live. So that one was more about what's going to happen this season.
Yeah, I like that.
And then there was another one that came out a few days later that was more specifically to episode 2 with a glimpse of 3, kind of.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the first one, we see like the flames shoot in the air, which obviously has to do with like the active volcano, probably. Lava. We see an older kid, what I thought was clinging onto a bounce house.
I think it was more of one of those like funky clowns from like a mini golf course.
Yeah, it looked
like one of those obstacles.
This would explain why I don't know what y'all are talking about, because I haven't really watched the
link in our
promos.
document.
So I'm like,
I always watch the promos on a cycle like that. I'm like, give me everything.
Yes, me too. I'm like that too.
Then we get Paul is like, tell me I'm not seeing the iconic lava. I see that, like, I'll hear that promo from like a room's away, and I'll be like, and I'll just yell,
and just
lava,
echo it.
and nobody in my house gets me, so they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Yeah.
They're lost.
I like reference Lone Star so much, and my parents are just like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing we can talk about it here.
Exactly.
'Cause we get it.
And then, like...
There you go, yeah. I mean, I have the same. Like, nobody I know, like, in my personal life, it's like, nobody watches
and
the
then,
show.
yeah. And then after we hear Mateo say lava, you hear Owen say fall back, and then the flame explodes into the air. We see the pool, I believe. And then Tommy says mask casually, like, we mentioned this, like, no duh. Like,
Right.
and then, like, we see somebody get hit with the lava. And to me, this almost seemed like they all looked similar. So we know who it is, but we also are like,
Okay, so I have hesitation here. So we know this is the volcano episode. And so that stops me from worrying it's any of the 118. But, so the voice we hear at some point saying, I'm sorry for your loss.
yeah.
That sounds like Tommy. And so I'm here going, would you say it like that? If it was Tim, which is on her team?
She just started working
Yeah,
with him
she
and
doesn't
probably didn't know him.
That's true.
She
That's my
doesn't know
one thing where I'm like, yeah. So I'm so confused with that. But also the voice. If it was in the crossover episode, it could also sound like Hen. So I'm just like, I don't know. But I feel certain it's Tommy. So I'll be interested to see how that turns out. Obviously, we're like 99.9% sure it's Tim. But there's still that 0.1% for me that's going, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. And then we see, like we talked about this before, but Marjan sits up, and I think this has to do with her secret past lover. And then Paul, she's like boxing, Paul comforts her, blah, blah, blah. We talked about that before. And then Grace is asking, she's like, to Tommy, it's hard being back, isn't it? And she's like, honestly, Gracie, it's been like hell, and I don't think that's going to be in the next episode. I mean, it might be, but like in my head, I'm like, I don't know.
I want to know what has made it into being hell. Like,
Probably.
Is it just the family aspect? Yeah. Or is it like, is it something from the job itself?
It's probably the family aspect, just because, like, I can imagine, like, having young children, because she said that, like, she didn't expect coming back this soon. She probably would have rather come back, like, when her kids were teenagers, or maybe when they went off to college, not, like, when they're, like, I think they're, like, 7 or 8.
Yeah. Kind of that impressionable child age where they want their mom around.
Yeah. But I also think it's, like, good, because then it's, like, they already know their mom's a boss, but, like they see their mom be badass on the job, and they see that she has, like, this life, and, like, that she can do this, and, like, kind of, for your kids, that makes an impression on them, be like, oh, well, I could do this. And stuff. So I like that. And then we see Carlos bust down a door, and I'm like, yes, give us Poppy Cop Carlos, Poppy Cop Carlos.
Yes. I love it.
I love it.
Then we see that's not right. Then we see Carlos comforting TK. TK looks like he falls into Carlos's arms.
I need to watch these promos.
It's literally for a second, but it's the best second in my life.
Quick. Yes. Mine too.
Okay, wow.
I can't just, like, we know Ronan has said how TK gets put through the ringer, and I'm like, if this is how he gets put through the ringer, I'm here for it.
And I think somebody on Twitter had said, man, Ronan keeps dropping hints about these 2 scenes, and then they put the picture, like the 2 scenes, because Ronan has hinted that there's 2 scenes, we've talked about it. And then Ronan responded to that comment because they had put the picture of this scene, and they're like, "That's not it
either."
or either,
Like, Ronan, you were being singularly unhelpful.
He was like telling Rafa about it. He's like, "Yeah, did you see those scenes that people really thought those were the new scenes?" And Ronan's like, "Yeah, I quote." he
was smug about it,
like, and off screen, but he's like, "Yeah, those aren't it." Those,
And then Rafa's like, oh yeah, those are pretty good scenes. He's like, do you think they'll do promos for him? He's like, nah, they probably won't do promos for him. It's like,
I love the joke of they're like, oh, imagine we get the call and say, yeah, those scenes
people are like, Ronan cursed us. And I'm like, they're not going to cut the 2 biggest scenes of the season. Like, come on now.
No. But like, Ronan and Rafa just reacting to
and
that.
Then, and then, like, a quick glimpse moment. You see Owen get on one knee, and I am not here for it.
In front of Gwen.
I am not here if that's a proposal.
No,
Like,
I
no.
guarantee this might be, like, in my head, this is how I think it plays out. I think this is her last episode, like, for, like, in her character arc, and I think that, like, he'll propose, he'll be ready to, like, restart things, and she's just, like, can't do it, and so she goes back to New York. I hope that's how it ends, and I think...
I love how we're hoping for this heartbreak.
Yeah, I know. I don't want him to be in pain, but like, oh, I don't want this. I didn't want this to start with. I'm so adamant about this.
Which is
like, I'm not here for it. Like, we're just not here for it.
You know,
Lone Star, listen to this.
So I guess for me, I'm open to it.
It's just too typical. Like. They do this too much, like, where, like, a couple will get back together, and I'm just like, I saw this coming, so I'm just not here for it. I'm so adamant about it not happening, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like...
But
if it happens, I guess it will be... Like, it's not like I'm going to boycott the show or anything if they do it. Like, that's fine. That's fine. If that's what they do, I won't absolutely love it, but I'm not completely closed off to it. I really want to see how the season progresses to know how I feel about it.
Right.
To be honest. Because this is still early on. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
But it's like...
And then we see Marjan kissing a man, which now we know from, like, press releases that it's Mena from, Aladdin.
Mena Masood,
yeah, I can't remember.
Who played Aladdin.
For Aladdin. And, yeah.
Which is my favorite Disney princess movie, so... I love Aladdin.
I have never seen either
my
version
best
of
friend
Aladdin,
is obsessed with him. So she was like, you have to watch this. I'm like, fine, I will. And then I texted her last night. I was like, oh my god, you are going to freak out.
So that'll be, we'll find him. He'll be in episode 4. Which we now know is called Friends with Benefits. I think that's what they call it.
And then the last thing we see is, I swear to God, a girl falling from a building. Like, I swear to God, it was on, like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw.
Yeah.
It was, like, on fire.
She had
probably.
Hair.
I would not be surprised.
It was, like, on fire and, like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that happened. I don't know what else to say. It's just, like...
No, I'm very much looking forward to this.
And then...
Like...
Then we get the crossover part of the promo, which is the best part. So we see a visual of Hennenbach. We see Eddie shake Judd's hand, which I had so many theories off this. And then, like, I thought it out. I was like, wait, this is too friendly. Like, do they know each other? And then I thought about it, and I was like, wait, what if, like, it's just, like, Eddie's, like, Judd's like, oh, you're from Texas. And, like, that's what it is. Which
I think it's about a 50-50
like,
for either, honestly.
I think it would be kind of a cop-out to, like, be like, oh, they know each other. Like, maybe, like, one of my friends is like, oh, like, wait, what if, like, Eddie, like, at one point ended up in Austin and that's how he knew Judd? Or maybe it's, like, a military thing, even though Judd, from what... Yeah, even though
Judd's not
he's not in the military, I guarantee he's not, because that wouldn't make sense unless they're rewriting his background.
Well, also, from what I remember about Story, he has been part of the
that's exactly my point. Like, it would make sense. It'd be basically like rewriting his past, which I'm not here for.
Right.
But like, there's so many things. I honestly think like I was just reading way too into it.
And people have brought up like a relation part. Like, maybe cousins on Eddie's mom's side, since...
That's what Andy and I did
in
Story.
I would not be upset if that was it. Like, maybe it is a little bit of a cop-out.
Yeah, I thought both of his parents were, like, Mexican thugs. Didn't they show his mom before? Or maybe I'm thinking...
No.
Okay.
She's Swedish. Because remember the, like, Awful People episode of 911? He was like, well, my dad's Mexican, I can treat you... My mom's Swedish, I can treat you with the Swedish side, except I don't know what side that is.
So yeah, that makes a...
Yeah. Well, that's when it's a good episode because of that.
And then there's also, Eddie Begins. She was in it quite heavily.
Yeah.
And Ryan in real life is half Swedish, half Mexican.
Okay, yeah, that makes... Yeah, that makes sense. And then we see... Buck and TK, and the theories of all of this are so funny, which I'll get to after this. the theories people have sent me.
Oh my gosh.
Then we see like some sort of like Blaze. We see Hen and Owen, and Hen's like run like hell, and I'm so excited for Hen and Owen to work together because it's not really a pairing that I would pick myself, so that's why I'm excited for it. And like it's just gonna be so good in my opinion. And then like we see Eddie and Hen, I think, and then we see like some Mayday, we are going down. I think it was Owen's voice. I'm 90% sure.
Yeah, it was.
It could have been the pilots, though.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was Owen's, but maybe not. And then, like, we got the additional promo, like, a few days later. The girl from the food truck is like, I'm going to die, aren't I? And Grace is just like, not as long as you're talking to me. Which is, like, I expected it. And then we get some repeat clips, the lava, blah, blah, blah. Mateo yelling incoming, and then the Tommy, I'm sorry for your loss. So the reactions and just theories I got off this, I actually really like these. The first one is somebody said, I think Buck and TK aren't going to get along like we wanted based off the scene pics, and I was like, I love that theory. Like, I honestly would like, not like tension or but like, I feel like Buck and TK are very different in a sense, because Buck is kind of like, he doesn't really think when he acts, and like, I feel like that was TK almost when he first got to Austin, especially in episode 3, but that's because,
and like, maybe when he was running
I think that was
but they're two very different people,
but
even
Buck
though
is,
they fulfill the same role in the show. I know this is coming from, like, my thing of my, like, TK far more than like, yeah. And I know Buck is a very popular character for some people.
Yeah.
He's not for me. But, like, the various different theories, I know I've heard, like, that one theory I think we've talked about before with, like, some people talking about, like,
vomit
them being together, and I'm like, no. That whole cheating
just,
thing,
like,
I'm like,
so far out there. Like, TK is, if TK being cheated on, I mean, we think that's what it was. I mean, I see that as cheating. But, like, TK being cheated on isn't going to cheat on Carlos. First of all, like, no, they're not going to do that.
Especially since Tarlos is in-game, and it's like, they would not do that.
Yeah.
For one thing, I think half the fans would leave the show, just from anger.
Yeah.
So if they care about their money, they're not going to do that. I know a lot of people, I think it's just because it's their favorite characters joining together, but they're like, oh, TK and Buck are besties, and they cross that over with
I don't think
they are. And Oliver being besties, which I'm like,
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but whatever. It's very different things, and I have heard, like, the tension, and I'm like, okay, that is something I can get behind if it isn't a dominating part of the episode. Because those are two tempers that could really get into it.
And, like, I, like, would, like, kind of, like, because they're going to Austin, they're technically guests and stuff, so, like, they might do this in LA, and they might have experience of, like, this call in LA, but they're in Austin now, so what the 126 says is, like, what they have to abide by, so, like, stuff. And I guess off of this, we know the pairings, well, we know some of them, so we know, like we said, Hen and Owen, and then I think TK and Buck will be a pair, and then Marjan and Eddie will be a pair, and then we have and then all we have left
I'm looking forward to them pairing.
Paul and Mateo, so they could possibly be a pairing, or there could be, like, threes. I'm not sure.
And, like, just to clear for everybody, we're not talking romantic pairing, we're just talking work pairing. Because this is the grouping we have seen in promos. I think Ronan and Rafa in their life were so confused by that. But it's like, that's just how I see it going down, and then, like, I'm here for it, like, those personalities together, like, obviously, we've already talked about Buck and TK and how we feel about that, but, like, with Eddie and Marjan, Hen and Owen, it's like...
Well, and I also was thinking, too, if Owen's gonna be on the helicopter, he's gonna have to put somebody in charge on the ground, so I'd imagine that would be
I forgot about Judd.
Because
I'm sorry,
Judd's the only one Judd's the only one that might have experience because Owen fought fires in New York, and there's not that many trees.
There's
like,
no
Manhattan
wildfires in New York. Maybe like hurricanes, like obviously like Hurricane Sandy is like the most known hurricane, and like Hurricane Katrina, but like nah.
So Owen would definitely put Owen in charge because he probably would have a lot more experience on the ground.
Yeah.
With fighting those fires.
Definitely. Definitely Judd would know way better. And I don't know how many wildfires there have been in Texas, because obviously like you always hear about it happening in like California and like stuff. So like obviously that's why they probably call in the 118. And I just talking about the crossover, since we're already on topic, like I was kind of like a lot of people I think were like this, were kind of disappointed that like it wasn't like Bobby coming over too, because a lot of people wanted Owen and Bobby to have a scene together, and I mean I wanted so much, but
honestly,
like, you want to see how like, these two captains will work together and that kind of thing. But like I'm sure there will be crossovers in the future. I actually think I've already heard that they like want to do more in the future, so like there's always future plans for like different ones, and they could obviously do one in LA, which would actually be like perfect, because like they wouldn't have to like fake Austin for an episode.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the reasoning why they didn't bring everybody over, because unless the entire station volunteered, bringing an entire shift over, that's a lot of people to manage, for one thing. Just filming wise, scene wise, that is a lot to handle.
And I feel like
it'd be
sense
way
in the
too
sense
much,
where if you're fighting a wildfire, you're gonna need as many people as you can get. But like, also it doesn't make sense because and like these characters have their own storylines going on. Like obviously Chimney's not going to go because Maddie's pregnant and he's like trying to like live with her currently, and he's not going to do that in the middle of a pandemic. And then we have like Bobby's worried about Dina, so he's not going to go. So it makes sense why it's Hen, Eddie, and Buck. I mean, Hen and Eddie have like kids and stuff, but like still, they have support.
But like Eddie has Abuela and Carla to look after them, and there's Karen for their kids. So it's like I am really happy it's those three going along, because I cannot see them not sending Buck, because I think the entire 911 fandom would probably rebel. And like I just really like that they're sending Hen and Eddie along.
Okay, so I have a theory, and it's a very way out there theory.
Oh boy, let's do it.
It leaves some potential here. So Tim dies. That leaves a spot on the ambulance. Who do we know from 118 that's
Eddie.
also a former combat vet?
I don't think... I like
Eddie.
this.
Just... You know what? We see him doing medical in the promo photos. And honestly, seeing as Eddie is my personal favorite character from 911, I would get behind anything that happens with him except for him leaving like the series completely. Like I want him, like I would... I've said before, and I really do mean it, that I would stop watching if he leaves the show. So if he comes over to Lone Star...
I mean, I would like it, and I wouldn't like it. The only reason why I wouldn't like it is because then we wouldn't get Buck and Eddie and stuff. And
and that's why it's like, it's a way
there goes all over Buddy.
But I was like...
I would not be fully against it. I wouldn't be fully for it, but I would not be fully against it. Like, I'd be very interested to see with that. But I think it's not as out there theory as it sounds. So, I don't know. Either way, if it is Tim that dies, they have to find a replacement. So, it's out there.
Unless it's TK. I don't know.
I don't know, maybe. But I don't see that. No,
that was just something I thought of. I think I thought of it the other day or last, when we recorded last, and I was like... I don't know if I did.
No, I would have remembered that.
Or I forgot about it or something.
That.
So
no, you didn't.
But I was like, ooh,
because out there enough that we would remember that.
Yeah, I thought this was funny. Somebody was like, "I think Eddie is gonna fangirl over meeting Marjan after the scene pick, and I was like,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, with them taking a
what
selfie,
my
or
thing
what looks
was
like
is
taking
I
a
didn't
selfie.
know if that was like an actual part of the episode or if that was just behind the scenes. I couldn't tell because like
Oh yeah, like so. Like
yes.
Brian and Natasha
I
were
think it'd
taking
be
a
funny
selfie
if
together.
it was in the episode. This is what I
Yeah.
think would happen. If it was in the episode, I think it was like Eddie taking a picture with Marjan to text to Chris to be like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing" and stuff. That would make a lot of sense,
Right?
But like,
Oh yeah.
if not,
oh yeah. Okay, throwing out there. I know
have
we're not
to.
a 911 podcast, but we're talking about the crossovers, so we're doing this. I want to see like FaceTimes between like Buck, Eddie, and Chris. Like I want to see those. Okay, to anyone who doesn't know already, which I'm pretty sure is absolutely nobody, I'm a huge Buddy stan, and I love the little, even platonic family of Buck, Eddie, and Chris.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to see it. I want to see it, and I want to see the 126 getting in on the FaceTime call.
I honestly, even if like people are like, wait, but like the 911 part is in the crossover. I'm like, see, this is how a crossover works. At one point they have to start the crossover, so that's probably going to be towards the end of the 9-1 hour, and then the actual part where Eddie, Hen, and Buck go over is going to be during the Lone Star part. So that's how crossovers work and stuff. So I think even like maybe they won't have scenes in person together, but they could do like a Zoom call between the captains to be like, hey, can you send some of your people over? Or be like, hey, that's how they meet. I'm like interested to see how they execute it, but
I mean, it could be as simple as like they hear wildfires are happening down in Austin.
Yeah.
And like it's hardly like LA doesn't have enough problems. But honestly, I think I've heard this before, and I actually could kind of get behind it. Is if, okay, another out there, but probably not as out there, theory is, say Eddie and Judd know each other, whether they're related or just friends. And maybe Judd reaches out to Eddie, being like, hey, do you know anyone from your department who can come give us a hand?
Love that.
And he's like, okay, yep, we're coming. Like, I am here for it if that is what happens. Like, I want it to happen. If it doesn't happen, I'll write a story about it.
And I think, so, I mean, it makes it, so we know that there's the big mudslide that's happening in episode 2 of season 4 for 911. And if they follow the same plot line that they've done in the last few seasons with that show, episode 2 and 3 are really going to be focused on the major natural disaster. So kind of towards the tail end of the cleanup of the mudslide with the 118, I'd heard that they will be, a few of the members will be gearing up to head to Texas, and that's kind of how that moves into Austin. So like Hen, Eddie, and Buck are getting ready to go to Austin.
Honestly, I think I am looking forward to second episodes for 2 reasons. First of all, the mudslide and the volcano, like, those are going to be epic. But also, the lead up into the crossover.
And I'm so excited we're talking about the crossover now. I feel like this just became, like, a mini, like, theories and what we want episode.
Yes.
But, like, yeah, but this is gonna
be one freaking long episode, but we're here.
So we won't be theory talking about it, like, the day of the crossover. So, it's literally...
yeah. And it'll be interesting because next week, or next episode, which will air the day the crossover airs, we'll be able to come off of that, like,
exactly.
Take
so,
what
like,
we have
we can
seen
give
from
our
the
initial
second episode
theories now.
and like
update
updates and
a second theories episode, but I love that.
I know, I love it.
Oh, yes.
But I honestly think that's what's going to happen through the whole season, though, for us. I think it's like we're going to see, every time we see the promo for the next episode, we're going to, like, say, oh, yeah, I remember seeing that in the beginning, and oh, now we have more of it, so that, like, so I feel like that's going to happen more.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Which I'm totally fine
and
with.
stuff. And that's exciting. I'm so excited because, like, I just get, like, when the day came that, like, the episode was on, I was like, oh my god, so excited. We're talking about it while it's actually happening, while it's actually new. While I was like, oh, so excited. I was just like, I was amped all day, and I, like, had butterflies or whatever. This is what my life has become. Gratefully so.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I looked at the clock and I'm like,
literally.
It's time to record.
Yeah.
But I am And I have so many different emotions, but like mostly all of them are good heading into Monday, or today for all you people listening on Monday when this airs.
Yeah, same.
I'm just really excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that it's back. You know, we've had a rough 2020 and, you know, going into 2021, there's a lot of stuff going on. And so it's just really, like I shared last week. So for any of you that don't know, the week before the premiere on Tarlos Tuesday, Raphael had posted on his story that every Tarlos Tuesday we could share stuff about what Tarlos means to them. And so I had shared something, and I was just like, it's cool because like Tarlos is super encouraging because it brought all of us together, like Shaz, Katie, Grace, and I, like we all became friends because of Tarlos, and so it's just really cool. Like now that like we're active in it and like we're watching the series as it's airing, we're talking about it. We're excited because we get to do the podcast now, which like we weren't doing last year, and which we of course we enjoyed going through and like talking about the episodes.
We did that
season 1 episodes.
We did that even with
but it was different.
Yeah. But it was a lot of bringing up like older stuff because it was like previous seasons, and now it's just fun to be able to go through. And we don't know what's happening. Like we don't fully know what's happening, so we get to look ahead with suspense rather than being like, and we'll talk about that in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll be talking about like, oh yeah, this is the episode that happened,
or like we forget to talk about a scene, and like we're like, wait, does this happen this episode? And we're like, no, we missed it.
Oops.
Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We are also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and almost anywhere where podcasts can be found. On iTunes, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. And like we said, we'll be talking about the episodes every week, so they won't be obviously the day the day you see episode 2, we won't be talking about episode 2. Will be like technically a week behind and stuff, but you can always like tell us your thoughts and we'll share them like we did today. And you guys can follow us on our podcast socials at 91LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can follow me at For the Love of Tarlos on Instagram and at For Love of Tarlos on Twitter.
You can follow me, Grace, at RonanRafa911 on Instagram and at SheepGirl31 on Twitter.
And you can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Twitter and Instagram. Talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.